Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
The white flag is flying high above the Phoenix Raceway as we get set for the Bluegrass iRacing series for the final time in Season 2, and 4 drivers will duel in the desert for top honors. Welcome race fans to the virtual Phoenix Raceway. Noah Carmichael and Joe Donahue join me on the mic this evening with Trey Shuttlesworth on our social media duties, and this is PitStop TV's live coverage of the Bluegrass iRacing series. As we know, you have many choices to meet your sim racing viewing needs. We thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We join you tonight from the virtual Avondale, Arizona's 1-mile, oddly shaped oval that now holds NASCAR's championship weekend, and we reflect that this evening, crowning the Bluegrass champion under the Arizona sun. 312 laps, meaning 312 miles, 500 kilometers lie before us for the field of, well, we got 17 and growing. It all comes down to this. 16 races will be completed at the end of 312 laps tonight. It's been certainly a wild journey this season, all the way from Daytona through some of America's and, well, some of NASCAR's best venues. So many great memories along the way. And it all comes to an end this evening. An exciting close here at the Phoenix Raceway. Noah Carmichael, Joe Donahue, welcome to the booth. This is going to be a fun one.
Absolutely. Whenever it's a season finale, it's always exciting, but even more so with the fact that this is a final 4. So rather there being a large points gap that you have to try and cut down coming into this race, you now have 4 very hungry drivers that are going to be on even playing fields. And I'm expecting an absolute slobber knocker of a race here tonight as we get ready to decide our second ever Bluegrass iRacing Series champion and a new Bluegrass iRacing Series champion as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Noah. I think the reset in points makes this race a lot more interesting. Those 4 drivers are going to have to be going for it all the way through this event. And we got a full race tonight, 100% distance too, so it's going to be a long haul in the mid stages for those guys to try to not make any mistakes and stay up at the front end of the field. And then once we get down to the checkered flag, it should be pretty interesting to have those 4 very competitive guys going for that championship together.
Let's take a look at those standings. Following last week at the Charlotte Roval, this is how things looked, with Brandon Robertson, of course, up top. We kind of covered this points battle throughout the evening and about how they should shake out. Grenier right up there with him. Kinder and Noggle, they tie for the final 2 spots in this final 4. And you can see, well, if you were to do the math, Casey Barlow would come in just 4 points shy of tying Noggle, 5 of making it in on his own, and then the tiebreaker would have come down to that transfer spot between Kinder and Noggle, but unfortunately Barlow didn't quite get the job done. Again, 4 points short, which now means 5th through 16th, they all get to battle for the final seeding of their positions this evening. 17th on back, of course, they will do the same, but all attention goes up to the top 4. Because those points are out the window. This is how things realistically look for this championship round. The top 4 all tied at 0. It's just a matter of go out there, ignore the points, ignore the stage even, and be the one who finishes best among that Final Four. So Brandon Robertson, Matt Grenier, John Kinder, Nicholas Nagel, they've got one job to do this evening, and that is to win, and if not win, beat the other three names in blue.
Absolutely. That's what I said last week at the end of the Charlotte Roval broadcast. Is now the only thing these four drivers need to worry about. You've gotten the points. You've gotten the wins, excluding John Kinder and Nicholas Nagel. Those two have gone winless, but have made it in without a win, which is even more impressive with the fact that these guys have been able to rely on stage point finishes and just regular points finishes to get them this far in this event, with drivers like Casey Barlow, Wyatt Brackett, Lancaster, and so forth, all having wins but being knocked out early. So now these four drivers, all their goal is now bring home that championship or bring home the steering wheel trying, because now you have to leave no stone unturned, because this is it. This is what you've worked all season for. So if you want to win this championship, you better put every fourth of effort into this event so that way you have no regrets leaving this racetrack.
Yeah, and those guys are really tough at the top end of the board. I mean, this is such a competitive series, and we always see names coming in and out of those top steps of the podium week in, week out. One of those guys being Brandon Robertson that we see pretty regularly. You see him on your screen now. Came into this race at the top of the leaderboard. Definitely going to be one of those guys that we're going to be looking at as one of the favorites to win the championship. But at the same time, I mean, you can't count out Matt Grenier. Very consistent this season. He's right there on your screen. Did not plan that. That was a nice coincidence that Matt was the car on the screen right there. But Matt's been very consistent this season, working a lot on getting some good finishes out of that car. He's kind of ups and downs from last season, but finally cracked a win this time around. You got John Kinder up there, who's been very good in the early stages of races and actually got very far into this championship as a result of those stage points that he's acquired over the season. Still looking for that first win of the season. And yeah, it's just been a tough go for him. And then you've got Nick Nagel. Now this guy might be the dark horse for tonight's race. He kind of snuck his way into the final stages of the rundown for the playoffs to get here and kind of just snuck in to that top four. But at the same time, he seems to be one of those guys who's very good on short tracks. And while Phoenix isn't lengthwise a short track, it definitely races like one, and it should play into his hands tonight. But obviously, Andrew, we're going to have to wait and see how these cars turn out and how good their setups really are.
Absolutely. It all comes down to just making the most of what is a very challenging racetrack, honestly. I think the challenges here at Phoenix are taken for granted. It is, well, a 1 mile racetrack. It's rather flat. We actually have a track map to look at. This still says ISM Raceway. I thought that was kind of funny in the iRacing system that it still says ISM, but no longer called ISM Raceway. It is Phoenix Raceway. And what we've got here is not the necessarily 100% current layout of Phoenix. It's kind of hard to explain. The 100% current 2021 version of Phoenix has a start-finish line out of what is, in this version, turn number 2. That short chute between, well, the higher banked corners of the racetrack and the dogleg. This is pre-2019, and actually it was debuted, I believe, at the end of 2018, where they moved that start-finish line from that, well, what is now the backstretch, the long, straight, and only 3-degree banking, so very flat. Front stretch in this version, back stretch in the new version. It's kind of confusing. Hopefully you can stick with us through it, but tonight we'll be calling the higher banked turns 1 and 2, turns 1 and 2. They've got 10 to 11 degrees of banking, same as the dogleg. It flattens just the slightest bit in that short, I guess the longer of the two short chutes of turn number 3, then a couple of flat corners, about 8 to 9 degrees of banking. Those will just barely hold you to go fast enough to rocket back down the front stretch and do it all over again. This play is very, very challenging, mostly on long runs. I think we'll see these guys get very, very loose this evening. That is one big challenge with these Cup cars, especially running the low downforce package here at Phoenix. But if we do manage to get a long run, I think that's where the challenges are really going to erupt, more so than just the car and track being a little bit interesting and the setup, especially from iRacing, being a bit tough to drive. We're going to see tire management put itself in the forefront of this conversation, especially over the course of 312 laps. It's a long time, and these guys have to get through it. Of course, we can't just have these stop and go kind of races again tonight. We've got to get through 312 laps. Of course, these guys, they want to get this championship race done and dusted, especially if you're in that top 4. You just want to get this thing over with, right? So you've got to get through these 312 laps, 312 miles, and you've just got to focus, I think, on getting past stage 1. I think that's a big thing. Would you agree, Noah?
I would absolutely have to agree. It's kind of the same thought of endurance racing with the 12 Hours of Sebring coming up this weekend. You're not going to be able to win it on the 3rd or 4th hour. You're not going to be able to win this race on the 22nd lap or the 52nd lap. You got to make the lap 312 to be able to actually compete for this win. So the number one thing these drivers are going to have to do is make it to lap 312. You don't need to be going side by side, door to door, running each other up against the wall, or trying to Clint Boyer somebody into turn number 3. All you got to do is make it the full way around this racetrack and then come that final 20 laps. So obviously that's when the gloves come off, because that's when the trophy gets put in victory lane and when it really starts to become a fight. You also talk about the reconfiguration of this racetrack running the pre-2019. Also remember, this track has given a lot of incredible finishes with that era of this facility where they had the front stretch the way it was, where that was where the start-finish line was. But also keep in mind that this track honestly has gone through probably the most reconfigurations of the 2010s compared to any other track, because not only did they back around 2011 tear out the grass around between turns 2 and turns 3, giving us that huge concrete playground that drivers will drive all the way down, as you see right there. But beforehand it was grass. They had a curb right there at the dog leg, and that would chew cars up and spin them out against the wall. We saw crashes there, but now they got rid of that. Now it's an entire asphalt playground where drivers can go 5 wide, and now we get to see this be used. So keep an eye on these restarts, because when these restarts come out, these drivers are going to be uber aggressive to try and get as many positions as they can. So you're going to see a lot of drivers dive down there.
Yeah, that part of the racetrack is definitely very unique for Phoenix, and it does offer a lot of really awesome opportunities, both for the drivers to try to make some ground up and for us to watch and enjoy some racing. I want to go back to what Andrew said about keeping your car underneath you. Obviously, like both of the guys here that mentioned, getting to the finish of the race is key. Obviously, you can't win if you don't get to lap 312. And to tie in the tire degradation that we're going to see tonight, you got to keep your car underneath you if you want to be able to get there at all. I mean, we've seen a lot of guys getting loose out of turn number 4. Casey Barlow right here, not too much of a wiggle there on your screen, but we've seen a couple guys here in this practice session get things kind of wrong out of turn 4. And obviously, if you spin those tires a lot while you're running through your run, you're gonna run out of rubber on the car, and then you're gonna have to either come down to the pit lane, maybe go a little unscheduled or a little short on your pit stops, or you're just gonna have to ride it out and you're gonna be losing time out on track. So if you're gonna tie in the ability to get to the finish of the race and be competitive there, you have to be able to manage yourself and manage the cars. You see Justin Winters coming off the turn right there, pretty solid. So he's showing he's kind of learning what he's got to do to keep those rear tires on the car. But that's something I think we could be watching out for with these 12 laps we got.
So 312 laps adds up to about 500 kilometers, and these drivers are getting ready to do it all this evening. Nicholas Noggle, well, he's on the pit lane. He's not gone out to start his qualifying run yet, and he joins Matt Grenier and Brandon Robertson in not having taken to the racetrack just yet. The only championship contender to do so has been John Kinder, and now Noggle will join him as the number 08 car will take to the asphalt here in Avondale, Arizona. And I don't know, this is cool to be broadcasting here at Phoenix again. This is a track that has really fallen by the wayside. We've not broadcasted from Phoenix since early 2018 with the Monday Night Thunder series at MNTS, so that's a big throwback for me. So this is really cool to be able to bring Phoenix back here on PitStop TV, as Justin Winter is going to go to the top of the speed charts and take the current pole position. We're looking at Nicholas Noggle will go right back to the number 08 as he tries to get a qualifying run in, and he's been sporting the Target logo on the bumper of his car. I always think it funny, considering he has, I think, rather publicly gotten himself into a couple of skirmishes and made a couple of enemies. We'll see if that comes back to pay him this evening in the way that he does not want. Of course, go back to Bristol even with Adam Lancaster. You go back to, I want to say, Martinsville with John Kinder in Season 1. There have been plenty of times where Nicholas Noggle has gotten into these small little skirmishes. They could come back to bite this evening. Of course, John Kinder's in this Final Four. His teammate Adam Lancaster is not. What if that 28 roughs up the 08 just a little bit to help out his buddy? You never really know what these guys. That's one nice thing about them, is they will throw you curveballs every step of the way. Nicholas Noggle going to get his qualifying run in and go 5th quickest. We're now waiting to see the 15 and 2 take to the speedway, and it looks like Brandon Robertson is getting ready to do so.
Yeah, you talked about Nicholas Noggle. He has had a lot of run-ins with many drivers on this series throughout most of the season. You talked about the Martinsville incident last season, what also happened this season, and not to mention what happened at Loudon, where John Kinder and Nicholas Noggle were running for the race win, and John Kinder ends up going across the nose. He gets turned in turn number 4, causing a huge melee that affected the entire outcome of the race, giving Adam Lancaster his win to get him into the playoffs. So there's a lot on the line for Nicholas Noggle. So I would not be surprised if we do in fact see a couple ruffled up fenders on the number 08 Toyota Camry, because I believe a lot of drivers are going to be happy, and I think they would love nothing more than to not see this number 08 car win this championship. You also got to keep in mind Matt Grenier and Brandon Robertson. While those guys are championship contenders, they are also teammates. So it would be very interesting to see how that would work out between these two teammates running for a championship. How's that going to work in strategy? I was trying to win a championship while also trying not to ruin one another's race, and how long are they going to keep that going before the gloves come off and they got to realize, okay, I want this championship. I don't care how many wins you have or how many wins you have, I want to win this. So there's going to be a lot of dynamics to this, and I think that right there is going to be one of the more interesting dynamics about how two teammates are going to race this entire event.
I would agree with that. I'm definitely watching that strategy that Grenier and Robertson are going to pull out on track when the green flag flies. For the moment, Grenier's coming around to finish his second lap of qualifying. Brandon Robertson coming around to start off his first, and Matt Grenier goes to the top side of the grid. So for the moment, we've got a championship contender sitting on pole. Brandon Robertson going to try to come around and take that spot. Matt Grenier really has shown some speed in qualifying sessions previously in this series, but kind of on and off with Grenier up at the top step of the podium. Usually can get a good starting spot out of him nonetheless. Brandon Robertson coming through turns 3 and 4, now going to tick off a lap in the Goodwrench number 2 Chevrolet to see if he can go to the top step of the podium. Brandon Robertson not quite going to do it, but he's going to get another shot at it here.
And it's almost like they scripted this to give us an opportunity to watch each championship contender qualify. We unfortunately missed John Kinder's lap, but we got to see Noggle. We now get to see Grenier and Robertson run their qualifying times. Robertson going to come up out of turn number 4 and complete his second flying lap here at the Phoenix Raceway. We'll see if it gets any better than a 12th position, and he will go 6th quick. So it's good enough to beat Nicholas Noggle, not good enough to beat the top 5 ahead of him in Lancaster Maurer bracket winners and his teammate Matt Grenier atop the scoring pylon, but hey, still a pretty good lap time there from Brandon Robertson, arguably the championship favorite since the green flag dropped in Daytona oh so long ago. So, I got to put you guys on the spot here. We got 312 laps to settle this thing. We've had 15 races prior to this evening. This makes 16. Who are your championship picks?
Well, obviously, you want to say Brandon Robertson, who comes in here without a doubt the number 1 seed of this entire championship. He came so close to winning this championship a year ago, but those 2 missed weeks, having to force those to be his drop weeks, that basically eliminated him out of a championship because of bad few races. But I'm going to go with the dark horse I talked about, Nicholas Noggle. We know that he doesn't mind getting that front nose a little crinkled up from time to time. He knows how to get around this joint. He knows how to do it to a point where he can get the other guy out of his way without ruining his own race. So I would expect the aggressiveness that we've seen in Nicholas Noggle to somehow be turned up even more as it already is, and maybe see an upset championship by the end of the night.
You know, I was going to reserve the opportunity to say that Nick Noggle was going to be a dark horse, but evidently Noah beat me to it. If I had to pick somebody at the top step at the end of this race, that's really hard for me because obviously Brandon Robertson is the favorite. But, I mean, my heart wants to say John Kinder. I just feel like he's been through so much this season. He's going to try everything he can to keep that car in one piece and get to the finish of this race. And obviously, I believe fully that he's put in a ton of practice on his own to get this far into this race. And, you know, so maybe John Kinder can pull that off. But if I had to pick one of the two of them, I think I'd stick with Kinder. I'd just go with it for the sake of, you know, what my heart wants.
All right, so to confirm, we've got Noah going with Brandon Robertson, right?
No, I'm going with Nicholas Noggle on this
Nicholas
one.
Noggle. Okay, my bad. So he's going Nicholas Noggle. I was going to go Nicholas Noggle there. I think I still want to. And I'm not really sure why. It's kind of just my gut instinct to side on the side of the number 08. Brandon Robertson, easily the favorite. It's kind of odd that none of us are really picking him, but I think we all know that he is the favorite, and it just, I don't know, something about tonight feels a bit odd. It feels like somebody might get a little bit lucky. I'll let that one sit as everyone cringes. I don't know. I think Nicholas Nagel for sure has a great opportunity to go out there and win it all this evening. Talking to Wyatt Brackett earlier today, these drivers know he's fast. They know from their practice races, their practice sessions throughout the week that Nicholas Nagel has speed, and this feels like the kind of racetrack for him to shine suddenly, where he's had great opportunities to do it. He's had great drives, but unfortunately has just been a little bit too aggressive. On the far side of that, he's been a little bit too aggressive sometimes, and this is a track where that's going to come back to bite you. Obviously, we're talking about how loose these race cars are. We've seen them all get loose this evening out of 2 and 4, most likely out of turn number 4. It's a very odd evening. It's hard to make a solid pick. I want to go with Nagel, but since Noah's taken him, I think I've got to go with Brandon Robertson. I know I'm kind of all over the place here. I mean, this is how tough it is to pick from these 4 drivers. I like that we've got Joe going with John Kinder, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I was a betting man, I would pick Robertson, I do think. But, I mean, I got to show some love for the 21 car.
And you know what? Sentimentally, I want to pick John Kinder as well, because I'd like to go have some lunch with him at Ghostface or something tomorrow, right? But I don't know. It feels like it's going to be, to me, it feels like it's going to be Nicholas Nagel, but Brandon Robertson is easily the favorite. So if I can't take Nicholas Nagel, if Noah's already got him, I've got to go with Brandon Robertson. I just don't know how you beat the speed that 2 car has had all season long. Brandon Robertson is just the guy to get it done. He's got X amount of wins on the season. I think it's 6 or something like that. I mean, he just doesn't stop winning. He even won last week at the Charlotte Roval. Brandon Robertson, I don't know he can really be stopped when it comes down to one of these races, but hey, it is just one race. It's not a matter of putting points together. He's got the 25 points that he put on his teammate Matt Grenier coming into this evening. That's suddenly out the window, and it's a matter of executing tonight. We'll find out who will do so this evening at the end of 312 laps. Before we go any further, I want to quickly give a shout out to the Bluegrass iRacing Series partners. Of course, Rims One, Wheels, Tires, and Accessories, located in Mooresville, North Carolina. And I actually also want to give these guys a nod. They are recruiting for season number 3, and they've got things going pretty nicely. And they will be coming back on Wednesdays in April, I believe it is. They will be continuing their racing ventures on Wednesday evenings. I believe April 14th is when they want to kick things off. So if you do want to go check these guys out, if you do want to race with them, they've got some great drivers, obviously. We've been covering them all season. Give them a check out on Facebook. They also have a Twitter account. I believe they have an Instagram. I think I've gotten a couple of things liked by their Instagram or tag or something. So I believe they've got an Instagram as well. But certainly Facebook will yield the highest results. And of course, a shout out to our partners as well at Tucson Sound Art, Race Pace Setups, Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, and Whiplash Media. That all said, we've got some, it looks like 16, 17 drivers on the grid. Let's walk you through them this evening. I'll take the top 6. Those going to be, of course, Matt Grenier on pole this evening. That's not all that big of a surprise. Grenier's always got speed. Justin Winters, though, after a week off, he comes back here at Phoenix. He's going to start from the 2nd position. Starting 3rd this evening, Wyatt Brackett in the 33 car. Nathan Maurer to his outside in the 4th spot. Rolling off 5th, that's going to be Adam Lancaster. 6th place, he's going to be my pick here for the championship. He is easily, I think, the favorite. Brandon Robertson will roll off from the outside of the 3rd row.
Starting back behind Brandon Robinson, the 7th position is my pick, the number 08 of Nicholas Nagel, lined up on his outside, the number 51 of Casey Barlow. Starting back in position number 9, you're going to find it the last of the 4 championship contenders, John Kinder, the number 21. You talked about having some luck on your side. Well, he's the only green car of the 4 championship contenders, so keep that in mind. I'll let that one sit. And then rounding out your top 10 will be the number 96 of Dylan Butler, and then rounding out your top 12 here tonight is going to be number 38 of David Brackett, in the always bad fast number 48 of Jack Bauer in P number 12.
Rolling off in P13 tonight's going to be the number 1 machine of Scott Fritz. He's going to have Nick Mills in the 46, starting in 14th on his outside. Roll it back to 15th starting position, and you've got Gary Jazorski in the number 18, which I believe he's running a new livery for this evening's race, so watch out for white and black on track for him. Bryce Hunter in car number 9 will be starting in 16th spot tonight. We go back to the 17th position here on March 17th. I had to try to figure out some sort of thing I could say. Is Michael Brisson on the inside. Brian Terry will be starting shotgun on the field in the 15 machine. And CJ Mason will follow him to the grind as well. So not quite shotgun today.
And just like that, we're already going green flag. That's how quickly it happens here at Phoenix Raceway. We are off and away. It's a green flag for the final time in the Bluegrass iRacing Series this season. Grenier leads him to turn 1. Under the flag stand, lap 1, he's going to go to Matt Grenier, who leads the way. And if we were paying points, bonuses for such, that would be an extra point for leading that lap. Unfortunately, it's just down to where these drivers finish. So lap 1 in the books, Grenier's already got a nice lead over Justin Winters and company. His next championship contender going to be Brandon Robertson, who's got company from Kinder on the inside. These guys battling early, and look at that, there's Nicholas Noggle.
3 of the 4 championship contenders right there, and that's what Matt Grenier wants to see. As we got a spinner, and that's Justin Winters. He's going to take it down to the bottom of the pit wall. He'll get that car back rolling, but will fall all the way to the tail end of the field. As Robertson now will clear Kinder and Noggle, as now he tried to step a charge to that 4th place position from Nathan Maurer. Something I realized too is you want to talk about consistency. 9 of the top 10 in this field here tonight from the starters are all from the playoffs, all playoff contenders who were starting in that top 16 back at Bristol. A lot of them obviously now eliminated, but just how about that? 9 of the top 10 in here, all of them championship contenders, and now Matt Grenier, who has had a very quiet season, a successful but quiet season, now finds himself leading here in the early goings as Brandon Robertson tries to play catch up on his teammate.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about not as much as the rundown for the championship itself, but those guys who made the playoffs, they have their own little race for 5th place in the championship to attend to themselves. So they definitely want to be pushing it as hard as they can to try to get up as far into championship standings as possible. I think it's worth noting that we kind of all picked out one of the 4 drivers in this championship rundown for season 2, and none of us picked Matt Grenier. Matt might have heard what we were saying and wanted to prove us wrong as bad as he possibly could, because he absolutely is tearing away from the field right now, and you can't really speak on behalf of a long run when a driver does this kind of thing, but for the moment, Matt Grenier is looking really good and bad fast in that 15 machine.
Matt Grenier feels like, if you were to have a big 3, for example, he feels like the 3rd of the big 3, and I don't mean that in a negative way. And of course, he got a race win, his first race win of the series, back at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But it just feels like we don't talk about him quite as often, and it's not necessarily because of his results, because of his speed or anything like that, but he just doesn't necessarily go out there and make big headlines, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at all, especially in a series like this. I think he sits back, he plays things quietly, and he's just there to perform, and I like that out of a driver. But I think that's why we ended up overlooking him here this afternoon to start things out. While we say that, though, these 3 are all moving their way up. They've all gone by Nathan Maurer, and of course Justin Winters had his troubles. So these 3 are all up a couple of spots each, and they're into 4th, 5th, and 6th spots. So, I mean, the top 4 are rising to the top.
Yeah, the Cream always going to rise to the top here in this league, and they're going to find their way up there to that 2nd spot, but they have a very huge deficit now to try and catch up to the number 15. To go back to your point, we talked about Matt Grenier. Yeah, we haven't really talked about him all that much. He hasn't really been that much of a contender for wins besides the one that he got, but still, if there's anybody in this race that is pulling kind of a Matt Kenseth 2003 strategy, where you win that one race and then you just be consistent all the way to the finish, that would be the story of number 15. He has not been a guy that is out there every week contending for the wins, but he's always out there running in the top 5. I can't tell you the last time I've seen him not run in the top 5, and now he found that 2nd gear, and he's going to go hard as he tries to win this championship, but he still has a long way to go. But if his pace continues up, he's really going to be the upset champion here. And it's kind of a funny thing. A lot of these drivers really are deserving. Brandon Robertson having dominated the championship. John Kinder having came so close last year and having not gotten that win. Nicholas Noggle having been taken out of multiple chances for a first win after running so well. And then Matt Grenier just having the most consistent season of anybody in the series. So there's a lot of storylines coming into this that really makes it arguable to say that there is no like unjust champion. Every single one of these drivers deserve to have become a champion here in this series.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree with that, Noah. And you know, it's tough for us to only get it down to 4 drivers because there's a lot more guys than that who probably should deserve a chance. But obviously, I mean, that's the way playoffs go, and you have to get yourself into running at Phoenix. You got a nice little battle going on for second place as you're watching John Kinder and Brandon Robertson running right now. They're kind of spaced out a little bit, but meanwhile, Wyatt Brackett and Adam Lancaster are running fairly close together as well. They were a little closer before, but they're staying right with each other. And these two guys coming into this event were running in 7th and 8th in the championship. So they are going for that 5th place, best of the rest, if you will, spot right now. Wyatt and Adam, certainly very competitive drivers in this series, and they're going to try to get any points they can. And those guys especially are going to be watching for the stage to try to get some extra stage points and help that effort. So watch those guys too in the meantime, because they got their own little battle going on for the championship for 5th place, and they're going to keep it tight.
As this run continues on, now through 12 laps as we complete lap number 12, that means 300 to go, but it also means that we start to see how these tires will wear out a little bit. As Lancaster looks low on Brackett very loose. As he set the corner, and now Lancaster very loose. You know how I was just talking about tires? Yeah, I think they're pretty worn out. I think these guys already going to be very, very slidey. I mean, there's a lot of water parks in the state of Arizona. I don't think they're turned on just yet. March is a little bit early, even for AZ standards. But, hey, maybe they turned this one into a bit of a slip and slide this afternoon. Brandon Robertson now at 3rd position, John Kinder to 4th. I'm noticing that Noggle has not only stagnated, but has actually started to fall back a little bit of those two that he was following in Robertson and Kinder. And he could be in trouble soon. He's still got a second gap to Howard. But the 08 not moving forward like he once was.
I'm honestly questioning whether or not he's trying to play it safe and just minding his race, because we've always known him to be the really aggressive driver that goes out there and puts forth 110% every single lap of every single race. So it might be he's trying to play it safe, keep this car in one piece, make it to the end of the race, and then start pushing. Because if what you're saying is true, and that during all the practice sessions Nicholas Noggle was shown to really have the speed, then there's no reason why he'd be running this so far back. So I'm guessing he might be trying to play a conservative strategy of trying to keep this car in one piece so that way he can fight for a championship in the final 30 or so laps.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 guys running for this championship right now, and obviously Noggle was up there with them, but kind of holding on to the tail of Robertson and Kinder. So maybe in some way somebody got in his ear and said, hey, you know, maybe we want to roll back a little bit, just kind of get through the opening stages consistently, not make any mistakes, not get into any trouble, which is kind of hard to believe. I mean, like you said, Noah, one of the more aggressive drivers in this series. We've seen him do very well at short tracks before. So I was kind of expecting him to go for it 110% every lap. But hey, maybe it's happening, and maybe Noggle's trying to pull a little bit of a unique strategy call and see if it works out for him at the end.
Robertson putting some pressure here on Wyatt Brackett. These two teammates, the one who's not of this trio, is going to be John Kinder. Kinder sitting in behind, seeing if he can pressure the two into a mistake, and look at that, in center. It looks like Robertson maybe tried to throttle up, but oh, he gets loose on the exit of the corner. That's how on edge these cars are this afternoon. These guys are going to have a lot of troubles through the rest of these 312 laps. Very, very slidey already, and we're not even 20 laps into this thing. And if we are on full fuel, I believe we should be with the full-length race. They've got a long, long ways to go, somewhere in about 70, 80 laps in a full tank if they so choose to run it all the way out. It's going to be a while before they can pit for tires.
I'm honestly curious here, judging by the onboard from John Kinder, if Brandon Robertson is struggling there in turns 3 and 4, or if he's trying to diamond the exit of the corner, because you can see him there. He's going to enter very wide, and he's going to chop it down a little bit to get a better runoff. When he goes into turn 3, he attacks the corner, slides it back up, and then jumps right back down the yellow line and gets a really good run on the 33 on the straightaway. So I'm wondering if maybe he's just trying to diamond to get a better exit off of turn number 4 to get a better run at the car in front as he makes the run again. And yeah, he's not really getting all that loose, so I'm thinking he's doing that on purpose, as he's just really holding onto the back bumper at 33, and meanwhile his teammate up ahead is just running away with this thing at a 3.2 second gap. An incredible start to the race from number 15.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Noah. I think Brandon's trying to diamond those corners. That car, it seems to be pretty set down for him, and you can see him slide up a little bit higher. Not slide, I should say, but just kind of roll up the turn a little bit. And he cuts back down and gets a huge run. Look at the speed the car's going to have. Down the front straightaway, we might get a pass in here. Wyatt Brackett on the outside might try to run high and run fast to stay on the outside of Brandon Robertson and get some momentum down the straight to the dog leg and into turn number 3. They're still side-by-side. Brackett on the outside. This might let John Kinder have a chance at Brandon Robertson as he goes down low. Wyatt Brackett goes way high, and Robertson should be able to pull this one off. John Kinder might follow him through.
Kinder's working the bottom side, ends up getting burned by that top side momentum for Wyatt Brackett, but Kinder going to try again down to the inside of Brackett, and that time Wyatt just couldn't quite hang, and that's going to put the Rims 121 momentarily into third. He's going to have to continue fighting there on the bottom side, though, and he's got to make a big move through to clear the 33. It looks like he'll finally do so and bring Adam Lancaster along with. How about this 28 car? A bit of a resurgence here since sliding about 10 or so laps ago. And Brackett's not quite done. This is not over.
Another guy making a resurgence is with Nicholas Nagos, because now he's really starting to bring the heat. He is really starting to pick up the pace. He was behind Nathan Maurer about 10 laps ago, and now he is right there with Adam Lancaster, with John Kinder, with Wyatt Brackett. So now he's starting to bring the pressure back up there as he makes the move down into turn number 3. As Kinder now going to take a little bit of a wide angle, so is Wyatt Brackett as they make their way up on turn number 4. As now he has a wall in front of him, 2 cars going side by side. That's going to separate him from the championship 4, as he's going to try to circle Adam Lancaster up there on the top side, and he might just try and pull a crossover down to the dog leg.
They come down the back past the dog leg there, and I'm wondering if what we were talking about maybe Noggle doing earlier with saving those tires is what's going on. Adam Lancaster, I had seen him slide through 3 and 4 a couple of times in the midst of these last few laps. I'm wondering how much of those tires are gone for Adam and how quickly he's just going to fall off of these guys. But you're going to have to watch Nick Noggle. I think that's going to be the way we can tell how much Noggle was holding back versus maybe losing some momentum previously, and how much Adam Lancaster's used that car up already. You see him getting loose there, going through the dog leg even, so Adam Lancaster definitely working that car and struggling with it as we continue forward.
Got a battle back here for the 10th position, and this won't matter too much for another 130 laps or so, but Scott Fritz starting to put some pressure on Nick Mills. Then 10th position is the final position for stage points. Now, it's not all that important just yet, and it's not all that important for too much of the field, but those guys battling 5th on back, they could still use those stage points to change up a few final positions in the standings this evening, so it's still worth considering. Back up to Noggle, though. He's still working on Lancaster, and now suddenly, look at that, the 97, Nate Maurer has rejoined the conversation. He's bringing Dylan Butler. So those guys towards the back end of the top 10 a little bit that had started to fall back are suddenly using their tires to their advantage. They, I think, were clearly setting back a little bit in order to be a little bit faster on this long run, but we're not to the longest part of this long run. We're only to the mid-run. How are they how are they going to fare as this running goes on and these tires get worse and worse? It's going to be tough to tell.
Absolutely, it's going to be tough to tell. It's way too early in a race to be judging the real pace of these drivers, because you're not going to know until they come in. And then you're going to realize, okay, this is what he was able to do during that run. Now you can kind of estimate how he's going to run it. Nathan Bauer going out to no man's land, trying to set it in there deep to try and catch up to number 08, but ends up getting sent out to the bushes. And he's going to lose a lot of time to number 08, now having to probably deal with number 96 of Dylan Butler right behind him. And the thing I noticed with Dylan Butler, it is really cool to see. So we kind of talked about earlier in the season the fact that he started to run more in the top 10. You're right, he is starting to get those consistent runs up there in the top 10, just not been able to really get the consistent finishes in the top 10. But I really like that paint scheme, kind of like I'm wondering if that's maybe a homage to the Hoffman Auto Racing, the USAC team, because he's running number 96 while they run the number 69. They had a very long time sponsorship with that product, Mean Green. So that's a very cool paint scheme to see, with the number style being so close. I'm wondering, with him also being an Indiana native, if that's maybe a Hoffman Auto Racing tribute scheme right there, as he's going to nudge the wall coming down the front stretch.
Yeah, right out of turn 4 there, coming down the straightaway even, Dylan Butler got a bit up into the wall. Dylan has had some ups and downs with competition this season. This series, he hasn't been here for every race, but the races he has been kind of some good performances and some that maybe we want to forget. But right now, running in that top 10, pretty solid performance for the time being, and we'll have to see how it turns out as we continue forward, how well his car is going to work on the long run. I've been watching the time difference between these two cars right here. So we got Brandon Robertson in the car we're on board with. He's chasing down Matt Grenier, his teammate, in the car number 15, and it is slowly dwindling. Not super quickly, but the numbers are going down, and we're getting closer to 2 seconds between the two of them. I'm wondering if Brandon Robertson's got the long run car hooked up, or if he's just kind of on the charge right now to get back up there with Matt Grenier. For the time being, it looks to be maybe a little more or a little less than a tenth a lap for Brandon right now. So over time, he might be able to catch up to Grenier, and we might have a battle for the lead.
It's hard to say if Grenier is saving at this point in the run, or maybe he just burned his stuff off too soon. It's really tough to say. We'll keep watching this gap. I've been noticing it too, Joe, and that's what we went to this. Grenier, he's starting to lose his lead. He's lost his second to Robertson since Robertson took second place over, and that's starting to continue to dwindle. It's just slowly shrinking, and Robertson, he seems poised for another one of his very dominant runs. I don't know how that's going to end, obviously, but it's looking like Robertson is still in that mid-season championship form that he needs to be in if he wants to close on it this evening.
Really starting to bring up the heat now, finding that fifth gear, I should say, as he is just on a charge coming down there into turn number 1. He's really started to close down that gap. Like you said, he had about a 3-second gap behind when he got around 33 of white bracket not too long ago, but now he is just really starting to close in the gap. And it's not the fact that Matt Grenier is getting slower, because they're still holding the same amount of a gap to the number 21 of John Kinder. It's just Brandon Robertson has found another set of gears that he can use, and he is really starting to bring up the pace. As you see the weather there, 79 degrees with a partly cloudy, 87 degrees the track temperature. So like you said, a very hot, slippery racetrack with the wind coming out from the southeast of 5 miles an hour. So very, I would say, normal track conditions for Phoenix Raceway at this time, and it's really starting to show with how these drivers are slipping and sliding. Now you look back at the number 9 of Bryce Hunter exiting off of turn number 2.
Yeah, if you put together a racetrack that's a little bit warmer like this, and granted, I'd love to be somewhere that's that warm for the time being. The Midwest got a little bit cool in the last few days, but the track being that warm is just going to exponentially hurt the abilities of the tires to stay under the cars and to run for longer periods of time before getting slick and obviously then getting a little loose. And for the moment, it seems like that's starting to play into the way this race is going down, but I think it does offer a really great chance for the racing to be exciting. The guys kind of have to work the wheels a little bit more, and it comes down more to a driver's race when tires wear off, and you got to kind of rely on your own skills to keep the car straight, let alone be able to make passes. One of those that may be trying to do that right now, Nick Mills, we're riding on board with him now down the front straightaway, trying to make a pass on Scott Fritz. They've fallen back a little bit. These two were battling before, trying to be up towards the end of the top 10. They are now in 12th and 13th on the grid. Whoa! Nick Mills got way loose in the dog leg there.
I'm not sure where he was trying to go, but he was pointed towards the inside wall. I'm very, very impressed that he did not wreck that race car. The 46 continues on. There's a battle up ahead as well with Barlow and Bauer. Bauer leading these two in the 10th position. This is the final spot in the top 10, and it would pay 1 stage point if he continues in that position all the way to the completion of lap 156. But Barlow going to drop down onto the dogleg apron and see if he can't cut some course and get up to the 48. Now that's legal, completely legal, as Mills completely misses turns 3 and 4, gets it woed down, and we'll continue on. But that's very legal to go down there and cut that portion of the racetrack. It's all been paved for that reason. On board Scott Fritz, as he now tries to find a way by Barlow. And Barlow actually gets a great dig up out of the corner as Fritz was a little bit wide. And these guys just mixing things up kind of in the midfield currently. So we're watching them a little bit as Barlow continues with pressure from Fritz. We've got Bryce Lee Hunter putting pressure now on Nick Mills, and further on back, actually, there's these two battling, CJ Mason and Michael Brisson. We might have a pass here. This would be for the 16th spot. If Brisson can make this pass on Mason, looks like he gets a little bit sideways out of the corner and won't quite make that pass. Up ahead, it's worth noting, Nicholas Noggle still has company from Nathan Maurer, and this pressure has not gone anywhere.
Yeah, really, everyone's kind of staying stagnant about where they are. It's kind of battling the same people that they were battling earlier. Someone I do want to mention, though, is the guy you see on your screen right now, number 52, with Justin Winter. Remember, lap number 1 or 2, he went spinning and almost hit the pit attenuator and fell all the way to the back. He has moved his way all the way back up into the top 10, now running in 9th on those same tires that he scuffed up on the start of the race. So he has really been having a really good comeback here tonight. Not the season he wanted after finishing second in the championship 1 season ago. He's wanting to try and rebound as best he can, establish what he can after having an early exit to the championship contention with the rest of the field. And now running up here in 9th, he is really going to try and have one more good send-off. But something interesting that I'm starting to notice as Nick Mills now going for a ride, he's going to do a little bit of a Tokyo Drift initial D style down the dogleg. He's going to save that blue total track time. But something that I'm not really seeing a lot of drivers do that you see drivers in the real series do is, you talked about the fact there's no track limits on this racetrack. No one has been using the apron in turns 3 and 4, which has usually been a hot spot for drivers to try and make those dive bomb passes to try and slide job each other. No one really has had the bravery to try and take it down there. Everyone's doing the normal run through the dog leg, but no one's really trying to pull that slide job going into turn number 3. So we've seen drivers do time and time again to make their way into the Final Four for the race that used to be at Homestead, going back to Ryan Newman going up and door slamming Kyle Larson the last lap to get his Final Four transfer spot. So it's a move that we've seen real drivers make, but haven't really seen that move been played here tonight so far.
That's the type of move I think we could expect to see later on in the stages of this race, but a great point to bring up that we haven't really seen anybody dive down into 3 and 4 yet to make a pass, and that does seem kind of like a move you would expect to see when these guys are racing as hard as they are with each other. But definitely, you look at the track, I mean, you can see the banking difference between going on the outside of the yellow line and down to the inside of it, and that banking is going to exponentially help you get through the corner with grip and whatnot. See Michael Brisson down there on the pit lane. He's the only one down there for the time being, and we're riding back on board with Brandon Robertson. Very much closer to Matt Grenier now, as he's just catching up to maybe catch a little bit of a draft off the 15 Ford Mustang. They go into turns 1 and 2. You can see how much more aggressive Brandon Robertson is on his apex through 1 and 2 that time. Definitely going to help him get out of the corner and get some speed to catch up to Matt.
And he's bringing John Kinder along with. He's taken that gap from 3rd to 1st. Down to about, looks like 1.4 seconds, depending on where they are on the racetrack. Brackets even joining in on this little grouping. So these guys are all starting to reel in. Our race leader, Matt Grenier, has led every single lap to this point. Got off to a great start, especially when his closest competition, who started outside pole, and Justin Winters, got very loose off of turn 4, but I don't think it's going to stay that way. In fact, there's actually a battle further back here. It looks like that may have been with a lap car. But there was definitely a pass that was just made. I want to see where that was. I think it might have been Lancaster? Yes, Lancaster going by Terry right there.
So Lancaster going back around Brian Terry, booting him another lap down. Now you're looking at number 71, Michael Brisson, who have just exited the pit lane, now making his way back up on pace. Now looking again up towards number 15. It's been very interesting to watch it. Like I said, you're not really going to know the pace of these drivers until that first round of green flag pit stops begin, but what we're seeing early on is that Grenier does an incredible job with using his tires at the beginning of the run, but really is falling off a cliff here towards the end of the run, because now he is getting reeled in by the number 2 of Brandon Robertson, number 21 of John Cannon, number 33 of White Brackett, and so forth as they make their way down out of turn 2 down towards 3 and 4 once again. But again, Brandon Robertson really finding another set of speed to try and use to pick up the pace and make that move with the Matt Grenier, maybe using a little bit of race pace himself perhaps to try and find a little bit extra speed to do whatever he can to try and win this championship. But again, it's just really impressive to see what he's done. I'm maybe thinking maybe he's getting some extra horsepower with the fact that all season long he's been loyal running that Corvette GT factory program paint scheme, the throwback on his Camaro, and with Sebring, like I said, coming up this weekend, maybe the gods of racing are giving him a little bit of luck on his side as Corvette gets set to try and win the GTLM category this weekend, as now Brandon Robertson tries to win a championship here tonight, as he is now right within the mirror of the number 15.
Yeah, we're shaping up to see a battle for the race lead within due time. Brandon Robertson is just ticking off more and more of the lead that Matt Grenier has had on this race. Coming up to this point, we're already 50 laps into this event, which obviously we got 312 to do, so we've got plenty of race left, but we are getting into the middle parts of this race slowly but surely. We're riding on board with Brandon. He just broke into less than a half a second between himself and Grenier. They go into turn 1 again. I think this is a spot where Brandon Robertson can get a lot of speed on Matt Grenier. Going into the entrance of turn 1, it seems like Brandon gets into that corner way better, and Apex just gets more speed throughout the entirety of it. They come into turn 3 again. We got another lap car up there to deal with. No big trouble. They should just be able to get out of the way nice and neatly, and we'll get past CJ Mason there when we get to him. But for the time being, you can see both of these guys just kind of running their line, trying not to make any mistakes or use up their cars too quickly. But you can see how much better Brandon Robertson can get through 1 and 2, and I think that's just helping him to exponentially catch back up to the 15.
Staying on board here with Brandon Robertson as he continues his pursuit. Now on the far side of lap 50. Grenier really tracking up high in the center of the corner. And it looked like that car pitched sideways for a moment. Then you see Robertson pitch the car sideways on exit. And it's always fun to watch these guys battle with the racetrack from these onboard cameras and see what they're put up against. It's always quite the challenge in these Cup cars these days, even when they've got the high downforce, low horsepower package. It's just fun to watch them battle the racetrack and then each other in that way and work the draft. Of course, that's not really on our minds this evening. It's all down to these drivers and the racetrack, and right now we're seeing Robertson just continue to kind of chip away at this race lead of Matt Grenier. He's had it down under a half second momentarily a couple of times. We'll see if he can finally do so one of these laps. And we might have a battle right here before the pit stops. That's interesting to me. It's getting closer and closer where we expect these drivers to pit. They're going to want to go to lap 78 if they can. And we're starting to push that pit window. And at Robertson's pace, man, it's going to be close.
It'd be very close, but the one thing that Robertson is very good at that the rest of the field struggles with is performing these undercuts on pit road. We see it a lot in other forms of racing, but Robertson has really been the one guy in this series that has really gotten the undercut effect down to a T, which is where you pit
Caution.
Earlier than the rest is now. We have a caution on the racetrack. Oh, we have Scott Fritz involved in number 46 and Nick Mills. Those two have been racing together quite a bit, and that is going to be a lot of damage to the nose of the number 46 Chevrolet Camaro.
Yeah, that was a lot on Nick Mills' car. These two had been racing each other for the majority of this race so far, if not the entirety of it, for position. So we've got Nick Mills down on the inside of Scott Fritz. They come through the dog leg. Nick jumps down way low, keeps that car going up onto the banking once again into turn number 3. He sends it pretty hard, and actually, yeah, there was a little bit of that one too for one of the brackets there, but looked like, I mean, Bryce Hunter was running his line clean and square, and Nick Mills just all of a sudden, I think he might have missed where he needed to brake to get through that corner safely and just slid right up into where Scott Fritz was and unfortunately collected the both of them.
Yeah, that one looked a bit odd. We'll take another look back at it, this time from the perspective of Scott Fritz down to turn number 3. And I can't tell if he simply was missing the corner or if maybe the tire is so worn, maybe when he set the turn with that higher speed, lower on the racetrack, had to turn in harder, or maybe the tire even let go. That's something I wouldn't expect just yet. But we have seen him abusing his tires, and it's certainly a possibility that Nick Mills may have just blown a tire into the corner. Very, very hard to say. We'll take another look back at it.
Yeah, it honestly just looks like he may have misjudged the corner entry, tried sitting it in a little bit too deep than what the car was actually able to do. And you see him just diving in there. He actually almost cleaned out the number 9 as well, and comes right across the nose of number 1, gets nosed into the wall, bounces back down, hits the number 33 of Wyatt bracket and gets launched back up into the outside wall. And the interesting thing that I saw that could have ended up in disaster is that he let the car roll right back down the racetrack to try and get out of the way of the leaders, but could have easily taken out Matt Grenier if that happened a second or so later than where he decided to do that.
Yeah, I saw that too, Noah, that he came back down the racetrack. That was a dangerous situation for everybody coming through turns 3 and 4 over that time period. I was wondering if he was going to even run into Bryce Hunter at that point in time, because he was coming in there very quickly in turn number 3. And it seemed to me, at least, like the initial reaction would have been maybe that him and Bryce Hunter would have made contact, but evidently that car kind of shot to the right, hit 9, rather it hit the 1. So at this moment, we've got 59 down. Matt Grenier held on to the race lead up to this point and has led every lap in doing so. Rest of the field coming through now, getting some fresh rubber. Some of these guys coming down the pit lane, trying to get ready to go to complete more of this race and get closer to that stage break, where some of the guys in the field running for 5th or further down in the championship need some stage points if they want to get a last-ditch effort to make up a couple spots.
And that was David Brackett that got a piece of the spinning 46 car in the number 38. David now in the 12th position. Wyatt was along with those guys that came up on the accident scene a little while later. And thankfully, he'll continue his pursuit of possibly his second win on the season. And hey, it would be at the other 1 mile racetrack that we are racing at this season. So it could work out for the 33 car, who does have a little bit of green on his Chevrolet Camaro. So we'll see what Wyatt Brackett can do. He'll be restarting 3rd position this time by as we get ready to go racing once more. Now, we looked at the weather a little while ago. It's stayed about the same. The track has cooled down a little bit, possibly partially in due to the caution, of course, slowing these guys down. But, of course, we are getting into the afternoon hours. We could see the lights turn on before this one's over. We'll see how quickly that sun drops behind the turns 1 and 2 grandstands. I don't think we're quite going to get to nighttime, but we just might see a bit of sunset before we are done. Lap 60 coming to lap 61 as we get this one restarted momentarily. Grenier, the race leader, then it's Kinder, those two championship contenders. Then it's Wyatt Brackett on the inside. Brandon Robertson, a Final Four driver on the outside. The other Final Four driver, he's starting 6th. That is Nicholas Noggle. Green flag back in the air. Grenier leads us down to 1. Out of turn number 4, this will complete lap 61. You saw Robertson kind of miss turn 3. He goes up, loses a couple of spots. He's now in behind Nicholas Noggle. So this the furthest back I think that the 2 cars been since the start of the race. Grenier, of course, out to a nice little race lead, and John Kinder in tow. Noggle now into 5th, and I think that's the first time that he's been the 3rd of the 4 championship contenders so far this evening. Noah, a very clean and orderly restart. These guys playing nice so far.
Yeah, that's going to be the key to make it to the end of this race. Again, you're not going to win this race on lap 62, so don't try and make any moves that are going to take you out at lap 62. So I'm expecting these guys to go a little bit single file, and then as the run goes into the later portions of it, you're going to see drivers become aggressive again as they try and pick and dive their way through the field. They see John Kinder trying to bring the pressure up to number 15 as they make their way through turns 3 and 4. As again, Wyatt Brackett holding stationary in the 3rd position, kind of being a buffer with Adam Lancaster between John Kinder and Nicholas Noggle as they make their way down towards turn number 1.
Noggle was looking, it looked like Noggle and Robertson were side by side on the straightaway. Now Noggle is side by side with Adam Lancaster as they go down the backstretch through the dog leg. The 08 trying to make another pass here, get closer and closer to his fellow competitors up at the top.
Oh, no!
Contact, and around goes Lancaster, and around goes Noggle. A couple more pile in. Yellow flag coming back out on the track.
Oh, and if there weren't already tempers flaring between these 2 drivers, it's going to get a whole lot worse. As, boy, these 2 that we know have had run-ins before now get into it once more. Lancaster and Noggle making big contact. You can see Lancaster is certainly racing the 08, keeping him behind him. But I think this is just normal racing so far. It's going to be a matter of when they get to down to turn number 3 that things get interesting. And, man, it's so similar to what Nick Mills just did. just he got him in the rear instead of the side.
Yeah, and again, number 38, David Brackett, going to be involved in that incident. He gets tapped in the rear quarter panel and is sent up to T-bone number 20 of Adam Lancaster. So insult to injury for the number 28 Ghostface Brewing Ford Mustang. And like I said, it's the lap 62. You can't be making moves this early in the race. They're going to take you out. And obviously, Nagel wants to try and get around to Robertson as fast as he can to try and get that gap moving so that way he doesn't have to worry about him. But again, just the aggressiveness shows, and it's going to bite him in the rear. And luckily, he didn't really destroy the car, but I would not put it past any of these drivers to want to maybe give a little bit of retaliation, because a lot of drivers have voiced their displeasure towards the number 08 car, and I would not be surprised if we see again, like we said at the beginning of the race, a few more scuffled fenders on the number 08 Toyota Camry.
Yeah, it is kind of up to the other competitors to keep each other honest out on the racetrack and avoid that kind of thing. This might be a situation that kind of results from a little bit of extra confidence in having fresher tires and being reset from a restart, that you think you kind of can push that thing a little bit more. Nagel dipped through dogleg, obviously came up to where Lancaster was going, and I mean, no purposeful contact right there, just kind of running out of racing room. I wonder how David Brackett felt about that when he absolutely pulled some evasive action at the last second to try to minimize the amount of damage he could get out of that situation. Unfortunately involved in both of our early cautions here in this race, but hey, chugging on. 38 car still trying to get a couple points out of today.
So this, of course, going to be rather debilitating. There we go. It's not been a great day for complicated words, but debilitating here for the driver of the 08. What do you say we try and talk to him real quick and see how he's feeling about this one? I certainly want to hear his side of things in that contact. And Noah, I'm going to give you the honors. I'm going to hand him your way.
Nicholas Niles, Noah Carmichael up here in the PitStop TV booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you there. What's up?
Well, you were having a very strong start here in the early goings, but now you find yourself towards the tail end of the field. Take us through what's going on inside that number 08 Toyota Camry cockpit as you were entering there into turn number 3 that time by.
Yeah, I had quite the run there and was just trying to use it up there. And unfortunately, when we went into the turn there, I noticed Adam started making the turn a little earlier than I expected him to. And when I went to lock up the brakes there, it just shoved the car hard. So I have to take blame on that one. Probably could have waited another lap.
And now, with that being said, quite a bit of damage to the nose of that number 08. What is the game plan going to be now to try and rebound and get another shot at fighting for this championship this early in the race?
I'm not too concerned about it. There wasn't as much damage as I figured there'd be. Was able to lock it down pretty hard there, and hopefully it won't affect us too bad here. It's just going to be saving. It's such a long race, and I was trying to save so hard in that first stage. Unfortunately, I think it was a bit too hard there. Seems like they got out front by a bit, so.
All right, well, good luck during the rest of the race, and hopefully we can see more out of you and get to talk to you later on here tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Nicholas Nagel will continue his vie for the championship this evening, restarting at the tail end of the field. For this restart, completion of 68, the start of lap 69, we go back green flag racing. Grenier is still the race leader, then it's Kinder and Moore. And it looks like the only drivers staying out on this one are going to be Grenier, Kinder, Winters, and Barlow. Everybody else pitted. Let's see how this one shakes out.
Very interested by Casey Barlow saying how the fact that he got sideways in that incident, so his tires are going to be a little bit in the square. You see it right there, going all the way up to the wall. Same with Hunter for Mason and Brackett as well as they make their way off of corner number 4 down the front straightaway. As now you're talking about Justin Winter staying out. Very interesting strategy call, but now that adds him back up to the fray of the top 5 of where he was at the start. As now Matt Grenier once again on this restart going to try and pull away as much as he can, but Justin Winter is going to try and make that damage to be as small as possible so that way he can be in the hunting for that championship as the number 2 Brandon Robertson looks to try and get back around the number 52 Winners.
Justin Winters has come on pretty strong here after that first lap debacle. The 52 machine charging up to the front end again, obviously getting passed here by Brandon Robertson, but definitely not going to let him go easy. You've got 3 of the 4 drivers running for your championship now in the podium positions. Justin Winters just sitting on the outside. Casey Barlow and Jack Bauer actually fighting for the final top 5 position right here. Jack Bauer kind of slowly working his way up to the front end of this field in the red car tonight, that 48 car. We're used to seeing it in a lot of colors, but red is not one of them we've seen for a while. So Jack Bauer rocking some red paint out here at Phoenix and gets down the inside of Casey Barlow. Might have to watch this 48 machine because Bauer's just kind of slowly picking them off one by one, getting up to the front of the field here, Andrew.
Brandon Robertson going to take second place away. Jack Bauer is certainly putting a pretty solid run together. And in fact, he's looking like he's going to go north of 5th place. He's starting to reel in Justin Winters, and I want to say at one point was even racing him earlier on in that opening run we had. So Jack Bauer might have something for the 48 car, or sorry, the 52 car rather, very, very soon. Nicholas Noggle is now in the 9th spot. There he is in that 08 Toyota Camry. Certainly a lot of nose damage. It's going to be hard to say that he still has a car that can go out there and win this championship. I'm sure that probably did a little bit of damage internally as well, but he's not out just yet. Still in the top 10 and still has a chance, of course, both technically and realistically as this race goes on. Can't miss, though, this battle for the race lead, and for the first time all night long, Noah Carmichael, we have a new race leader.
Brandon Robertson now finally going to go around to 15 on Matt Grenier, and like you said, our first lead change of the night and our first change for the overall standings leader, as now Robertson finds himself back up at the top step as he looks to try and create a gap to Matt Grenier, as John Kinder looks to try and close down on these two and make it a 3-car fight for the championship, as now we have a record that's going to involve Adam Lancaster, and there's another car up there involved. I wonder who that is, as we are under caution once again. I believe it could be possibly Nicholas Noggle again.
Yep, sure is.
Yeah,
it's not how you're going to think, though.
So we're going to catch the replay here. I'm just as curious to see this as the rest of us. Here we got Adam Lancaster coming down into turn number 3 and into 4. He's right behind Nathan Maurer, running the bottom side of the racetrack. They come up. Oh, Lancaster just got it on his own, slid up, lost control of the car, and then hit the wall on the outside and then slid back down to where Nick Noggle unfortunately got collected into that one. Interesting that those two got involved in another incident here, but I mean, we talked to Noggle. He said it was on his own doings, and unfortunately he just kind of lost control of that car when he made that first contact with Adam Lancaster, but this time I think maybe a little of karma coming back around.
Yeah, isn't this interesting? These two involved again, but not how you might think. Lancaster came down and clips the 08. Boy, if he wasn't already looking like he might be done, this one, it might not look like a lot, but getting hit in the side and then taking a hit to the rear and a hit to the nose subsequently, that's going to do a lot of damage to the driver of the 08, well, rather the car of the 08. And I'm just not so sure about that 08 anymore. Nicholas Noggle looking like he has got quite the bit of damage, and the whole field going to come down to the pit lane and get some service.
Bring it back down pit road. They're going to get those 4 tires and fuel, so it's going to be interesting to see the strategy call played by a lot of these leaders. As you see the damage under the 08 there on the corner of your screen, the nose now completely ripped off. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think that would be safe to say possibly championship done for number 08 of Nicholas Noggle, as Adam Lancaster as well is still sitting on pit road. As Bryce Hunter, how about that? Bryce Hunter wins the race off pit road.
No, so sir, he stayed out.
Oh, he stayed out. So in fact, now we have another strategy call being played out, as now we have a third lead change here tonight.
Yeah, and that might be Bryce Hunter just trying to get some extra points, or just trying to do something off strategy. I mean, you're running more in the middle part of the field, and you got to kind of do something unique if you want to try to have a chance to get up to the front step. And for the moment, Bryce Hunter has done that. So now the number 9 car will sit at the top step. Matt Grenier going to be coming in second place. We got Michael Brisson in shot, but he will subdue and fall back as a lapped car. Let the lead lap cars lead us back. So Matt Grenier, Brandon Robertson, those guys who are fighting for the championship, now they're going to have Bryce Hunter to shake things up with at the front end of the field when we get this restart.
Bryce Hunter, your race leader. Matt Grenier going to take back over what should be the race lead very, very shortly. I'd say with about just under 10 laps on those tires. Bryce Hunter, I can't explain what just happened. Please do excuse the cat in the background. Sometimes I don't have words. I feed and watch after this animal, and he just... Anyways, you're hearing a little bit from the peanut gallery in the background as he slammed into the desk momentarily. Anyhow, Bryce Hunter going to take the outside on this restart. It'll be just to the far side of 1/4 way completed. At least it looks like he'll take the top. I'd imagine so, considering he's staying up there. So that means Grenier will line up on the bottom, which I think is only going to further the fact that Grenier should have the race lead very, very soon off of this restart. These guys going to get re-ranked, restacked. And the 3 remaining, I'd say, championship contenders going to stay up in the front. Just not so sure about this 08 anymore. He's back in for more repairs, and you can see just how damaged that car is. And I wonder how the voice chat is going with Adam Lancaster and his team. The fact that they ended up getting Noggle back in such an odd way. It's just how those guys are. I mean, I don't mean that against Lancaster and his team. It's just how iRacers are, by all means. They're just like real race car drivers. They keep those things in the back of their minds, and they notice when things get leveled out like that. Unfortunately for Nicholas Noggle, it looks like he may be done. Coming to lap number 80 on this green flag. Waiting for the green flag signal for our race leader, Bryce Hunter, and we will be off and away. There it is. Green flag comes out. A massive fight brewing up out of turn number 4. Bryce Lee Hunter going backwards very, very quickly. Maurer going to try and go by. Brackett going to try and go by. The other Brackett going to try and go by on the bottom side of the 9 car, slipping further and further back in this field. Grenier, Robertson, Kinder, they all get out to the top 3. Bauer into 4th, Barlow into 5th, and just watching this 9 car sink.
Yeah, I'm very questioned now why the fact that number 9 car stayed out with how far off the pace he is now on those older tires. Maybe kind of misjudging how many cars would have stayed out. But he is paying the price. He has almost fallen out of the top 10 already as of right now. But a guy who isn't falling out of the top 10, number 2, Brandon Robertson, is setting a new fastest lap here tonight as he tries to charge back down his teammate at number 15 to retake not only the lead, but the points lead as well, as we're now talking a 3/10 gap between number 15 and number 2.
Yeah, now this is going to be interesting to see how Robertson can hold on with Matt Grenier. Obviously, at the very beginning of this race, Matt Grenier had a lot more clean track in front of him than Brandon Robertson. But for the time being, Brandon Robertson obviously running in 2nd spot right here. We've got a new fastest lap actually coming out of Wyatt Brackett. Props to Wyatt that he's starting to charge on from back there in 7th spot. But it's going to be interesting to see how well or how poorly Brandon Robertson can hold on at the beginning stages of a run to the number 15 machine. As I was saying, Matt Grenier had that very early stages of the run just down pat when we got the green flag the first time, but this time around he's got Brandon Robertson right on his tail. As Wyatt Brackett now on your screen, going to look down the inside of Nathan Maurer.
Wyatt Brackett going to take that spot away. That's good for the 6th position. As you see, those guys continue to do some battle up ahead. Barlow with some pressure here on Bauer. This would be for 4th spot, and the top 3 just kind of riding right now. I don't think there's a whole lot going on with these 3. I think Robertson would like to get up there and battle with Grenier, but they also know that this is still very early in this race, Noah. You do not, especially as teammates battling for a championship, you don't want to get caught up in this too early.
Yeah, that's going to be the number one thing these guys are going to do, and I would not expect anything less of them to kind of just play it safe and run it to the end. We still have, just believe this, over 200 laps of racing left to go, even though we're at lap 85. So they still have a lot of racing left to do. So expect these top 3 just kind of play it safe, ride around, and make it to the end of the race before they start doing anything drastic. I don't expect these guys to really be involved in many incidents with the way they race as they make their way off of turn number 2 down the backstretch once more.
They come through the dog leg again. Brandon Robertson holding on strong to Matt Grenier up in front of him. We're riding off the front of John Kinder. Now we're riding off the tail of Matt Grenier. So both shots of the number 2 machine, both from the front and the rear, as we're watching to see how well Robertson can hold on to Grenier in the beginning stages of this run. Maybe by the end of this run, if we get it in, a longer run that is, we'll see what they have in store for each other when you put Brandon Robertson that much further up towards Matt Grenier at the beginning of said run. Somebody diving down way into the dog leg back there, that's Casey Barlow, one of those guys fighting for the championship that isn't the main championship. He got a little squiggly wiggly in the middle of those corners, trying to avoid contact with Y Brackett and Jack Bauer around him. Nathan Maurer going to maybe try to capitalize on that as well, as Barlow just drops back a couple spots there from that little wiggle in the middle of those two corners.
Yeah, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier about how these guys weren't using the bottom side of the racetrack in 3 and 4. I'd also noticed they weren't really using the apron too much. Well, I think we're seeing why. A couple of moves have gone down onto the apron for a couple of these drivers. When they pop back up, I don't think they're at all ready for the lower line they have into the corner. The fact that they've got to whoa that car down a whole lot earlier if they want it to stick. I mean, there's just no downforce on these NASCAR Cup cars than their low downforce configuration, so you've got to do all the work with the brakes and tires, and well, these tires aren't giving these guys a whole lot of help this afternoon, and they're certainly sliding into the corner more than they are turning, and I think that's why we've seen a couple of these smaller incidents. The cautions, it didn't seem like were by any means because of those kinds of moves, but it just seems like coming back up off the apron, they're not quite ready for the difference in speed and the difference in line.
Yeah, and also thing that we're going to be missing is that cheap PJ1 compound that NASCAR had been using for the past couple of seasons to add traction to certain areas of the racetrack. With that being gone, now these drivers are actually going to have to drive the cars and wrestle the Phoenix International Raceway, and that's exactly what you're seeing. These guys have been struggling throughout most of the night, but even then, they're still putting on one heck of a show up here at the front, as again, Robertson and Grenier nose to tail now, as we might see another change for position for the race lead, but also keep an eye out for that number 21 of John Kender just kind of staying back there and biding his time watching this all play out.
Yeah, these two, if they get into a little battle here, Grenier and Robertson could let John Kinder catch back up to them. Robertson looking down the inside now out of turn number 4, doesn't quite get there and might lose a little bit of momentum down the straightaway. These guys running up in the top 3 are the 3 main championship contenders at the moment. It is worth noting Nick Noggle is still on the lead lap, but has gained a ton of damage over the course of this race so far. And hopefully, you know, he try to get a couple more breaks and get some of that fixed up. But for the time being, he's just kind of riding around, biding his time back there. You got 15 throttle jockeys still out on the racetrack. He's in position number 12. He's one of the last cars on the lead lap for the time being, but back up at the front end of the field. Obviously, those guys still are going strong for the championship. You're watching Wyatt Brackett. He's starting to make a race out of this position with Jack Bauer. Those two inside the top 5 right now. Look back a little further. You got Adam Lancaster and CJ Mason, 2 guys who were in the playoffs earlier on in the show. CJ Mason, kind of one of those guys who snuck his way into the playoffs at the very ending of the regular season and tried to progress forward pretty far. Had a really strong performance at Bristol and tried to move as far as he could into the championship. Now he's just trying to get a couple extra points and be one of those guys to be the best of the rest at the conclusion of season 2 right here. He's losing time on Adam Lancaster a little bit out of corners, and I think Adam's just kind of rolling off a little bit better than him for the time being.
CJ Mason certainly surprised in his championship run. He was very, very quiet all season long. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if he missed a couple of races, or at least it certainly felt like he missed a few races. I don't recall talking a whole lot about the 55 car throughout the season. He was very, very quiet and just kind of worked his way by points into the top 16 and was suddenly alive at Bristol. He's certainly excited, and I think if we had a more traditional format where these guys had more than just one race per round, he certainly could have driven at least into the second round by just staying consistent. CJ Mason certainly had some great things happening for him this season, just not quite enough to continue on in the playoff hunt. I believe was eliminated in that first batch at Bristol, if not certainly at Talladega. And 55 car, I think, is certainly one to watch out for over the course of the future. You saw Noggle go on by, and, well, we'll stay with this one for a minute, given the tendencies of the most recent 2 cautions.
Battle of the 2 damaged cars now taking place as they make their way down towards 3 and 4 as the modifieds getting ready to bring it up once again. You're right to kind of want to watch these 2. I wouldn't really expect much to happen because obviously with how Noggle is, I believe he would have apologized for that, or maybe these guys are just going to try and race it out. But again, you just never know. These 2 have really been attracted to each other to cause some incidents. So again, I think this is a good move to keep an eye on this as the fight for the race lead still goes on. But as here we go, and now we're going to see a possibly interesting pass be made here soon.
Yeah, I think if you're going to talk about any of the rivalries and altercations of two drivers in a series, this might be the one that the two drivers have the least amount of quarrels with each other with. Obviously, both of those incidents were kind of not by purpose and just kind of unfortunate circumstances that neither one really could say it's really that tough on them, you know, versus each other. Maybe on track it is, but versus that other person, not a huge amount of disliking for the running, I think. Outside of maybe a little bit of frustration, or a lot of frustration, I should say. Nick Noggle did get around Adam Lancaster and is actually putting a pretty significant gap in between those two cars. So the 08 seems to be driving a lot better at this moment than the 28. We look back up at the front end of the field. Brandon Robertson has completed that pass and led the way. Now Grenier is falling about halfway in between Robertson and Kinder. Those three still running pretty close, but not super close. We got a little bit of a gap in between Kinder and Grenier that I think John's just kind of riding out right now, biding some time.
As we continue on, now it's a lap 100 of 312, nearing a third of the way into this race. They're going to come around to lap Mike Brisson very, very shortly. As we were covering that battle with Noggle and Lancaster, the lead did swap hands. We see that now. Robertson up ahead. But there's a battle brewing for fifth spot still. Jack Bauer now with company from Nathan Maurer after Bauer lost that fourth position to Brackett. And now Wyatt Brackett going to join the top three a little further ahead. And look at this, Justin Winters right back into a nice little battle for position. He dives to the inside of Maurer. Can he hold it a little better on the inside? Hey, that was a great run with cutting the apron. That's how you got to do it. You've got to move the car down early and hold it very low on the racetrack.
Yeah, he hasn't really shown much of the pace during most of the season that we're used to seeing out of him, but don't really ever count the number 52 out. It's been an off season for him, but he still knows how to get it done. He still knows what it takes to win these races, and he's just been showing that as he has been chasing this car all night, tearing up into the field. Every time he falls back down, he just gets right back up, and now he is putting down a hunt towards number 48 of Jack Bauer as he makes the way off of 4 down the front straightaway this time by. So I would expect maybe this race is going to be a little bit of a motivating momentum shifter for him going into next season to try and maybe rebound a charge, to have another shot at a championship like he did in season 1, and possibly have another chance for a championship in season 3.
Yeah, that's a great point, Noah. This is going to set up some momentum for these guys to get ready to go for the next season of competition for them. And certainly Justin Winter is one of those guys you'd look to. I mean, he did have an excellent performance in season 1, and he's had some ups and downs this season. He got a win, and he got some other good performances in as they're going to come down the inside of Michael Brisson right here through turns 1 and 2. I think if you're going to think about somebody to watch to see if they can rebound, it is Justin Winters. There were a lot of really great rookies that came into this season. I mean, don't forget guys like Casey Barlow. I mean, Casey Barlow is in his first season with the series still. He went very far into the playoff format. So I think, you know, when you look at new guys coming in,
caution. Bryce
and this
Lee
is
Hunter.
one of them. Yeah, as I said, some really great rookies coming in for season 2. Bryce Hunter, one of them, but we'll catch the replay here, see what put that car sideways.
And I noticed he was starting to get caught by Nicholas Noggle. The 08 certainly is not all that bad, even with his damage. And then, well, Bryce Hunter around out of turn number 2. I don't think he's going to hit anything. The laziest of spins. That was... okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit of a self-spin there. Like you said, trying to tackle this course with how slippery this track has been all night due to how hot the track temp is with the high temperatures here in the Arizona desert. And sadly, that's going to bite the number 9. And remember, he stayed out under that last caution, so he's dealing with those older junior tires, and that might have played a factor in how the number 9 car found himself spinning around.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to have a factor on it there, Noah. I mean, you know, the tires have been so important this whole race, and the guys have to try to hold themselves back as much as they can to try to keep control of the cars, keep control of those tires. You see a whole bunch of guys coming down the pit lane now, and that is going to be the majority, and we'll see if it's the entirety of the field minus Bryce Hunter, who is a lapped car, so people get a wave around past the pace car there. But Brandon Robertson leads them down the pit lane. Matt Grenier right in tow. John Kinder behind them. Those 3 championship leaders still 1, 2, 3 in the running order as they come in for their respective pit stalls and service.
You saw Brian Terry continue on. He is a lap down. That's why he stayed behind the pace car down the front stretch. All these other guys in for service. I think everybody on the lead lap down. And yes, everybody aside from Brian Terry and David Brackett are currently on the pit lane. And they are both one lap down, waiting for their chance at a wave by, be it a lucky dog or a wave around, one of the two. And out of pit lane, it looked initially like Robertson got him, but no, Grenier is going to win the race back out of the pit lane. That first pit stall is certainly paying dividends for Matt Grenier this evening. We don't usually talk about the first pit stall a whole lot on iRacing, but it's certainly working for him this evening, Noah. And what do you say we actually ask him firsthand about it? I'm going to hit it right back to you as we bring in Matt Grenier.
And as we bring in number 15, Matt, it's Noah up here in the PitStop TV booth. You got us?
Hey, Noah, how's it going?
Well, it's going pretty good for us, but I gotta say it's going pretty better for you. You've been on a roll here tonight since the drop of the green flag, running up here in the top two the entire duration of the current 108 laps that it's been. How has it been for you running this high up in the championship, really being now one of the favorites, having come in here the second seat here tonight?
It's nerve-wracking. I'm not gonna lie. You know, we're running pretty hard up here, trying to keep it clean, just stay in front of Brandon and John at this point, and keep the tires under it. So far, I've been able to do that, and that's going to be the goal here for the next 200 laps or so.
And as you do get set to go green, possibly for the rest of the remaining 200 laps, what has really been the most challenging factor that you've had to deal with when tackling this course while also fighting a really good teammate of yours that has been right on your back bumper? You two have been 1-2 most of the season, now 1-2 in the championship.
You know, the tires go away pretty quick. They're good for about 2, maybe 3 laps, and then they start to go, and if you heat them up, especially the rears, you're going to be in trouble slipping and sliding through each of these corners. So keeping your tires under you is definitely important. Hitting all of your marks is important. You know, it's helped me stay in front for now, and you make one little mistake and, you know, these two guys will capitalize and they're gone. So just got to keep it under you and keep going forward.
All right, we'll let you get set here for this restart. Hopefully you get another chance to talk to you later on here tonight. Good luck out there.
Hey, hope so. Thanks, guys.
So Matt Grenier will get ready to restart this race once more. It'll be lap 109. Coming to lap 110, just shy of 200 laps to go for these drivers. The green flag in the air, waiting on it to wave to signal these drivers to go. There they go, off and away to take lap 110 back to restart here at Phoenix. And look at this already. Brandon Robertson working the top side of his teammate Matt Grenier. Couldn't quite stay to the outside of the 15 car through the corners, but Noah, he is coming.
He is coming and coming fast as he is right there on the back bumper. Wyatt Brackett actually getting around number 21 and John Kinder to move himself back up to the 3rd position. So we have another change up in the championship fight as now Kinder has a buffer between him and Robertson to try and fight for this championship. How about Jack Bauer back there in 4th? I believe, actually 5th, I should say. A really good restart for him as now he's, for the first time, is up in the top 5 and at 48.
Yeah, Jack Bauer's been showing he's got a pretty good amount of speed right now in that car. He's been holding on to the ends of these guys up at the front end. These championship contenders, mind you, the guys at the top end of the podium after we've had such a long season up to this point with so many races in the past. It's pretty impressive to even get to the point where you're in that final 4, let alone be 3 of the guys up at the top step of the podium. We check back in on our 4th contender, Nick Noggle. Very slowly, but very surely is trying to work through the field. He just gets past Nathan Maurer, and actually they get into a little bit right there. Nathan Maurer, I think he actually did hit the target on the rear bumper of Nick Noggle right there down the front stretch.
We've been waiting for it. It may have finally happened as Maurer works to the inside of Noggle, and certainly some internal damage there for the 08 car holding him back, but the mid-corner speed isn't too far gone, and I dare say that's because of the lack of front downforce on these low downforce NASCAR Cup cars. Bauer has fallen out of the top 5 now to the 6th spot as Justin Winters has worked on by. and into the top 5. Robertson and Grenier, they start to pod themselves back away from the field, and Brackett, well, he's sitting back now about a second away from teammate and race leader Matt Grenier. And, you know, we talk about teams when we can in these iRacing leagues. They don't always come up because, of course, they don't always mean quite as much as maybe the NASCAR Cup Series. But it's certainly meaning a lot this evening, where you've got 3 teammates, the 3 flagship drivers from Team New England leading this race. And somebody I believe would be very, very close would be John Kinder. He's, of course, on a separate team. He's got teammates such as, I want to say Bryce Hunter, Ronnie Shirk, and, of course, Adam Lancaster. But I believe they work together when they can, and he's close in behind. Look at that slide, though, from Grenier, and these 2 teammates going to do battle not only for the race lead here on lap 115, 116, but for the championship.
And we talked to Grenier not too long ago. He talked about how the nerves are really spiking up while running up here for this championship. So obviously he is really doing a good job of keeping the nerves contained and not really making too many mistakes when it comes to fighting for the championship. He's really kept solid all night long and hasn't made a single mistake to cost him this championship, and that's what you need to do. That's been a number one key to how he has made it to this far in the championship, is just being consistent, and that's how he's been all night, running top 2 the entire duration of the race. I can't name you one time that we talked about Grenier falling back to 3rd. He has been a top 2 contender all night, and that is going to be the number one key and how he might win this championship. He can hold off the number 2 of Brandon Robertson, which he has been doing pretty well most of the evening.
Yeah, I mean, he's showing he's got the car control. He's showing he's got the patience and the rhythm right now to be able to get that car further into this race up still at the top step of the podium. And I think, you know, at this point in the race, that's really all you can do is just kind of prove you have the rhythm and prove you have the ability to run up front, which Matt Grenier very evidently has done, as has Brandon Robertson. So those 2 guys definitely showing some speed in these stages, but not too aggressive. Obviously, we're only in the mid stages of this race. You don't want to use up your car too quickly here, as it will just slow you down over the course of the entirety of your race. But definitely the way that this race has been going, I think that kind of proves those 2 guys are on it tonight. John Kinder's been holding on, so don't count him out. He is in 4th place right now. I think that might have something to do with maybe Wyatt Brackett might be trying to get up there for some stage points. Obviously, he is looking for stage points to try to further his chances to move up in the standings for the rest of the field at the end of the season. John Kinder not worried about stage points, so probably not going to try to put too much of a run on for Wyatt Brackett. Wyatt looked a little loose out of turn number 4 that time, though. John definitely not letting him go quite yet.
No, John just needs to keep himself in this race, and he's doing so far. And even those 2 leading this thing, they don't have to lead. They don't have to race as hard as they have been. Again, all they have to do is make it to lap 312 and complete lap 312 ahead of everybody else, and they've got this championship for themselves. But certainly, of course, pride comes in. You want to go out there and lead every lap that you can. These 2 still very, very close for the race lead. Grenier with Robertson in tow. And we've checked it a couple of times on the other championship competitor at this point. 4th place out of the 4, and unless something devastating happens up ahead, I'm just not so sure that Nicholas Noggle has a clear road to victory at this point. I don't think he really has any road to victory at this point. He's going to need those roadblocks taken away by somebody, causing some kind of trouble for those guys up in the race lead.
Yeah, but regardless, you got to give a lot of credit to number 08 of Noggle. He has had a lot of adversity he had to battle through, having been taken out really of a championship fight early in the runnings. But the fact that he's still running up here in the 9th position with how much damage he has is impressive enough to say. So he is still giving it everything he has. And honestly, even with the damage, he's still very much succeeding because he's running about where he has been most of the race and still knocking on the door of a lot of drivers like Bauer and Barlow and even possibly winners up ahead. So I wouldn't really maybe count him out yet. Obviously, it might take quite a bit for him to be up there fighting for a championship, but still, he could really put up a good showing here tonight and have the best finish that he can with what he is being to deal with here right now.
Yeah, definitely Noah. I mean, he's got an uphill battle, but at the same time, I mean, for the car not having a front bumper on it, it's very impressive to see how well Nick Noggle's doing right now. He's even putting pressure on Casey Barlow. I mean, Barlow was up in the top 5 for a while in this race, trying to fight with some other guys to stay up there. As he looks down the inside still, so you can see the difference in speed that he's going to have. And while aerodynamics aren't maybe the biggest thing at Phoenix, they're definitely crucial to getting down the straightaways and whatnot. But I think the middle of the run speed, I know Andrew mentioned the corner speed in the middle of the turn that Noggle's still holding on to. I think that's valuable, and it's just impressive to see Noggle still holding on to this thing. He's not given up yet, and that's the biggest thing. The driver in the seat has not yet given up on that championship, and that's what's keeping the 08 car in contention right now, with maybe some later yellows, especially the stage break. If he can get some of that fixed up and just be patient and get a couple more positions ticked away, I mean, it's not impossible, maybe improbable, but not impossible to see the 08 car fighting for the championship by the end of this one.
These two getting very close once more. We're talking about the possibility of a stage break coming up. Not the possibility, but the certainty of the stage break coming up and who might play things to their advantage with that stage break at the completion of lap 156. Let's take a break of our own right quick. We'll go side by side momentarily. We won't miss a moment of the action, but we will step aside and be right back to you here with PitStop TV.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence. After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
We rejoin you as Brandon Robertson has just retaken the race lead from teammate Matt Grenier. They go on by lap car Brian Terry. And Brandon Robertson, man, this 2 car is just oh so good. I just don't know how you can bet against this guy. He's been the top contender all season long. Again, I'd say since they unloaded at Daytona, this 2 car has been one that we've talked about, and for good reason. He's been so good, and we see why. And we see how he gets it done. And it's just, I mean, it's just, I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless at the season that he has put together. And it will honestly be a little bit disappointing for Brandon Robertson if he does not. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit disappointing. Incredibly disappointing if he doesn't go out there and win this evening. He's put such a great season together. And now is starting to gap his teammate Matt Grenier. He also saw Grenier bobble that time out of turn number 2.
Yeah, just kind of the thing about Robertson. Last season, like I said, he was a very strong contender for that championship. It was easily one of the guys you could have talked about being one of the big 3. But because of the fact that he missed those 2 races, and those automatically being his 2 drop weeks, he had to really make sure that he never had a bad weekend. Sadly, he did have about 2 or 3 bad weekends, and that eliminated his possibilities of winning a championship. But after Kentucky, we had the chance to talk to him. He was holding himself very optimistic for this season, knowing what he needs to do to come out here, and he has done exactly that, and really has made himself be that championship contender, being the guy, the face that runs the place, and that's exactly how it's been all season long, and we're seeing it once again. Now about a half second late, he's just starting to run away with it, and it's just not surprising at all to see the number 2 car at the top of the scoring pylon this late, or about this point of the race.
Yeah, and at the same time as that, though, Noah, we don't want to take it away from any of these other guys. You're watching Justin Winters on your screen right now, riding behind John Kinder and just in front of Nick Noggle now, 4th, 5th, and 6th place on your screen. There's a lot of guys in this series who do shake things up with Brandon up at the top step. And while Brandon has sort of had the stranglehold on conversation so far tonight about being the favorite to win, the rest of the field keeps him honest up there. And there's been a lot of really great racing throughout the entirety of the field, let alone up at the front end with Grenier and Kinder up there. They're side by side right now on the screen, Justin Winters and John Kinder, two black and green machines here with Nick Noggle in tow behind. This is letting Nick Noggle get a lot more momentum off of this car because he can get that draft down the straightaways where maybe the aerodynamics are a little bit botched on the 08 machine and keep up with these guys, be able to make a pass now as he looks to the outside of Justin Winters through the dog leg.
This is incredible right now out of Nicholas Noggle. The fact that he's able to keep contending with these guys is just blowing me away. This is amazing stuff. And Winters looked like he was gonna squeeze up into the 08 momentarily, side by side down the front stretch here at the Phoenix Raceway in Avondale, Arizona. Thank you so much for joining us here at PitStop TV this evening. As this battle rages on, I want to remind everybody these broadcasts brought to you by some amazing people. Those being, of course, Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. Race Pace, it's a community-driven setup shop and driver development service all in one. Use that Discord link at the bottom. Oh my gosh. That contact thankfully doesn't hurt either one of those two cars. We'll stay with this for a moment, actually, because that could have been dramatically race-changing if that didn't quite go the way it did. Nicholas Noggle was fighting on the outside of Justin Winters, and just that little bit of contact on corner exit, man, that could have gone oh so wrong for the 08 car.
Yeah, Winters really not really caring the fact that Noggle is still fighting for a championship. He did not give him an inch coming off of corner number 4, and that could have easily just ended the night of a number 08 machine, as he is still making his way up to the field, almost in a top 5 spot, now looking at the onboard of the number 51 Casey Barlow, knocking on the door of the 48 of Jack Bauer, now making her way to run up towards turn number 3. The field kind of spread it out for right now, but that was a very close call between those two, as now Barlow going to get very close to number 48.
You said that was a close call, and they went and made it even closer there in the midst of turns 3 and 4. Barlow charging on with Jack Bauer right now. Those guys were at one point fighting for playoff spots, but now they are just fighting for more spots in the ending stages of this championship season. Jack Bauer running in the red Lowe's Chevrolet right in front of the green and yellow number 51. They go into turn number 3 this time. They're still holding on pretty nicely to Nick Noggle, who's got Justin Winters right in front, showing they have enough speed at least to keep up with those guys. And maybe as the run goes out and if we get a couple more breaks for them, play a little bit of strategy, they might be able to catch a little bit further up. As I say that, they go side by side. That's going to take them off the tail of Nick Noggle, but maybe gives Casey Barlow a chance to go down the inside. Jack Bauer here in.
And that was a bit of a dive out of Casey. I was very surprised by that, as Noggle going to make a move here on Nick Mills. And wow, Barlow, a big slider into turn 3, the crossover there from Jack Bauer. This place isn't covered in dirt. These guys are racing like it is. And here comes Noggle to the inside of Winters. A big move here for the 08. This would be for the 5th position. Doesn't quite get alongside the door of the 52, but he's not giving up just yet.
Going to take it all the way down to the dog leg to try and get side by side with him. Expect the dive bomb going to turn number 3 as he tries to take away the top 5 position. He's going to send it in there, and they're going to make contact, as now I don't think he was a little bit too happy with how Winters raced him on turn number 4, so he's going to let that be known. He does clear him for the 5th spot, but now he's got to try and run away as fast as he can, because Winters obviously very much knows how to run this track, and I don't think he's going to be too happy with how Noggle made that pass.
Yeah, Winters going to go on the outside here maybe. Noggle cuts up in front of him, almost hits that target on the tail of the 08 machine. Justin Winters surely isn't going to be too happy about a hip check in the middle of 3 and 4 to make a pass for the 08, but nonetheless, he holds on to the tail for the moment, going down the front straightaway, and you can see how much the sun is affecting the way these guys can see where they need to put those cars in the apex of turns 1 and 2. Down the inside again, maybe. No, he goes down to the dog leg. Justin Winters going to go all the way to the inside wall as Noggle runs the top side. We'll wait to see where Justin Winters comes out. He actually lost a spot to Casey Barlow.
I think that was more of a slide than a choice to go down to the bottom side of the racetrack like that. Nathan Maurer joining the party. He's starting to catch up to Jack Bauer. A bit slow out of the corner is the 97 But Nathan Maurer is certainly putting together a pretty nice run this afternoon here at the Phoenix Raceway. Further back, a couple of guys we've talked about, but not for a little while now, is actually, one car spinning. That's David Brackett on the inside of the front stretch. Gets the car righted once more and will continue on. But that could have been our fourth caution. Very slow still on the bottom side of the racetrack. This could be a problem here for David Brackett. Well, obviously a problem for David Brackett. Could be a problem for the field soon.
Yeah, it looks like there might be smoke coming out of the back end of that number 38, so it could be engine damage being done to
that was the dust,
38.
actually. The bottom of the racetrack so dusty. That was kicking up brown dust.
Okay, so I guess he's just trying to limp it back around the racetrack and just get the damages repaired. Apparently the tire is just too much for him to handle, and he's going to just bring it down to the attention of his crew as he gets put another lap down as the field goes on by. So obviously not the way that David wants to end his season after having such a pretty strong run through most of it, even though I believe he missed the playoffs. Not how he wanted to do it, but still a very strong season, and this is not how you want it to go here in the final race.
Yeah, and David's one of those guys who trekked through season 1 as well, so he's very loyal to the series and tries to come out in every race that they run, and unfortunately hasn't quite gotten the big breakthroughs he needs. He's had some pretty solid performances, but today is not going to be one of them. He's been kind of struggling with this machine all race long, and unfortunately that's just another tick on the mark for David Brackett in the incident encounter for this race. He got involved in some of those earlier incidents as well, put him a couple laps down. As you see on the screen now, he's back to 4, and he's going to be 5 here as Brandon Robertson and Matt Grenier come out of turn number 4, and they're going to lap him once again. Down the front stretch they go. As we look back at Justin Winters, Jack Bauer, Nathan Maurer, they're all running together, trying to fight for a couple of those positions, try to maybe stay closer to the top 5. Barlow, a little bit of a gap there between himself and Winters as Bauer slid it in there, didn't quite get the run on Justin Winters.
I'm noticing that Nicholas Noggle is starting to put some time here on John Kinder as he rolls up to the 21 car soon. This is a pass, though, for the 7th spot as Bauer goes on by Winters. Justin Winters certainly going the wrong direction right now. The 52 car, I think, on some very old tires. And, no older than the guys he's racing, but he certainly abused those tires quite a bit, trying to race up a little bit further in this field, and is starting to go the wrong direction. I mentioned Nicholas Noggle. He's getting so close to the back end of John Kinder. We're coming up to 6 laps to go in this first half of the race in stage number 1. So close to halfway, and some points for all but the championship 4.
Yeah, but the interesting about this entire situation is we kind of counted him out, but he is pulling down the time. He's catching these leaders, so even with the damage, he is still in this thing, to be honest, because he's only about 3.5 seconds off, but at one point he was about 11 seconds off with how bad the damage was, so it maybe just took him a few laps to learn how this car handles now, but he's not out of this thing. He's right there, and he's about to make a pass for the points position.
Defying a lot of odds right here, and Nick Noggle had some speed, and it wasn't out of the question to see that 08 car charge back up to the front end, but I don't think anybody would have expected him to come on that fast and to get up there this quickly, that he's already challenging John Kinder for position out on the track. Definitely would have thought he'd need a little more time to get some of those repairs done and just kind of get some more of those laps ticked away, that he could get that car back into shape to be able to challenge like he is right now. But he went down the inside of John Kinder pretty easily there through 3 and 4 as they charge down the front stretch again. Noggle going to even put a little bit of a gap in between himself and the 21 machine.
And amazingly, he is turning laps consistently on pace with or faster than the leaders. That time by identical to what Matt Grenier ran in second place. A couple of tenths slower because of the battle than Brandon Robertson, but just 2 laps prior, he was faster than the 2 car. So Nicholas Noggle, this is incredible that this guy has such a torn-up race car and is muscling through it on this long run to still run a bit faster. In fact, that time, he was faster than both Brandon Robertson and Matt Grenier. Robertson is 6:29, Noggle a 6:18, Grenier an 8:84. This is incredible. Incredible stuff out of Nicholas Noggle. The stage going to come to an end, though, in 2 more laps. Robertson leads the way. 2 laps to go in stage 1.
Yeah, Noggle's really living up to the whole dark horse idea that we kind of gave him at the beginning of the broadcast, and he has just done an absolute fantastic job fighting his way through this field. But again, up at the front, he's going to have a lot to do to try and catch up with him, but there's don't count on Nicholas Nago because obviously he loves to prove us wrong, and that's what he's doing right now. But up at the front again, Brandon Robertson just dominating as you have a car spinning down the dog leg. We misses that a little bit as they make their way off of corner number 4 as we await the caution to come out, as now Robertson is pretty much just going to cruise it here to the stage victory.
Yeah, so we did see that car sliding out of turn number 2. I think it's all squared away, and there's no yellow flag. So Brennan Robertson still awaiting the checkered flag here for this stage. Got to give a lot of credit to him. He put on the Chargers, put on the afterburners to get up there past Matt Grenier, who also put on a good run. But out of turn number 4 this time around, it's going to be a yellow flag. It's going to be Brennan Robertson taking the stage.
Robertson going to take the halfway stage, and if this was a regular championship race, it would be a 10-point bonus as well. But stage points, race points, even bonus points, not mattering for these Championship 4. It's all down to where you finish, and Brandon Robertson is currently on pace to finish first this evening at Phoenix. Grenier second, then it's Brackett and Noggle up into 4th, passing John Kinder late in that stage. Then Barlow, Bauer, Winters, Maurer, and Hunter. And again, 6 of those drivers, they all get some points to pad themselves up in their respective battles to round out the point season. But Robertson, Grenier, Noggle, and Kinder, stage points mean nothing to them. It's just a matter of where you finish this evening. And we'll be talking to the driver of the number 2 very, very shortly on just the far side of this pit stop cycle. Man, I mean, you cannot beat, I don't think, this 2 car.
You really can't. The only thing that's really going to beat the number 2 is himself with how well he is running. But again, we're going to have to watch this time down pit road because, like we've seen, Robertson has a pretty far back pit stall compared to what his teammate has. So that should make it pretty interesting to see how these drivers take it down pit road and whether or not Grenier can get the jump on him like he did the last time by. He's going to be right on his back bumper coming down pit road.
Yeah, Grenier definitely wanting to maximize the abilities that he's going to have to get around Brandon Robertson on the exit. Only one car stayed out on the track as the rest of them coming down the pit lane right now. Brandon Robertson leading the way. We got a long haul before anybody gets down to their pit stops as they're all at the tail end of the pit lane here. Robertson sliding into his stall right there. He's got some plaid specs on his pit crew as the rest of the guys coming in through the pit stalls that they have. Right behind him is Nick Noggle, who did put on the afterburners to get to the end of that stage, and we'll watch that 08 car as we go through stage 2. Watching up at the front end, Matt Grenier, the first pit stall, and he is going to slice just barely back out in front of Brandon Robertson and take back over the race lead.
And with stage 1 now out of the way, well, we see the usual kind of cycle here on the exit of the pit lane, but it's, it's this guy who ends up on top at the end of 156 laps. And Brandon Robertson certainly putting a season together, as well as the icing on top. Brandon, 45 laps led there in stage number 1. You end up not getting those 10 points that you get the rest of the other 15 races, but still you're the leader at halfway. There we go. And certainly, I think, still a favorite to win this evening.
Yeah, thank you. Man, shout out to Matt, John, Noggle. They're doing great. I think we figured out here that Matt can get out ahead of me if he's in second, which is kind of troubling. There's nothing I can really do about that at this point. So I guess we'll just pray for a long run at the very end, because it seems like if it's going to be a 10-lap run and going to get fuel, he's going to probably somehow come out ahead of me unless I do something crazy.
Now, I want to confirm something here. You guys are running full fuel this evening, right? 18.7 gallons?
Yeah, we can do like 85 laps. So, I mean, if it runs green, we probably pit around lap, 232. But yeah, I think we'll see a lot of green flag this second half.
I dare say you want to about split this thing in half. We've talked a lot about you undercutting. Is that an option again here this evening, possibly coming in a bit early?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry, the spotter was cutting in and out there, but no, I appreciate you guys broadcasting. It's been fun to watch.
Absolutely. Well, keep it fun to watch for us up there. You guys have been battling literally since the drop of the green flag. It's oh so exciting as per usual. Brandon, best of luck to you out there. And, at the very least, make it exciting for us here to the end.
All right, we'll do.
And that's Brandon Robertson, the race, the race leader at the stage, not so now, as he will restart from the second position. I'm glad he was able to confirm, though, that these guys are on full tanks of fuel. Very, very important, I think, for the rest of this race. We know about the pit window for these guys, and I'd guess it'd be about 70 to 80 laps, and, well, 78 is half of one of these stages, so if they can go to about 80 to go, I think that is their cue, if not a little bit further even, to go ahead and come in and pit. The green flag back in the air. We are back off and away here at Phoenix Raceway, Stage 2 underway. Grenier, another great race lead off of this restart, much like the initial couple of starts. Robertson until then it's Kinder. You have to go quietly. He's back in the top 10, it seems, to get to Nicholas Noggle. He's in the thick of things.
And Noggle really starting to put the pressure up there. He had to start a little bit further back to where he came in the pit road due to the fact he had a little bit of further pit stall, but still just bringing the heat up to these leaders as now he's going to try and get around Casey Barlow, Jack Bauer, Wyatt Brackett as he looks to put himself back up into the top 5 as Justin Winters looks to do the same to him as they make their way off of turn number 4.
Nice run there out of the corner. Jack Bauer trying to look down the inside of Wyatt Brackett right in front of him. Nick Noggle now diving to the inside. Is Casey Barlow going to let him go? He's actually going to try to take on Jack Bauer from the outside line through 1 and 2. The tires are letting him do that now that they've got those fresh Goodyears on. Coming down the dogleg and backstretch again. There's still 2x2 into turn number 3. Jeez, Casey Barlow is up to the top side of the racetrack. Jack Bauer going to have to pin it down to the bottom. And as I say that, look at this. Justin Winters trying to make things noisy with Nick Noggle. Goes to the inside. Those guys going to go 2x2 once more down in through turn number 1.
And out of turn number 2, through the dog leg here at Phoenix. Winters going to take that spot back away from Noggle for the time being. Bauer still working on the inside of Barlow. That would be for the 5th spot if he can get it. And Winters had to take a very shallow entry. These guys catching Wyatt Brackett currently. Oh, and Noggle, the dance up out of the corner and saves it somehow from going around. Very glad he did. And he will slot then into 9th position, certainly falling back now in that top 10. But as we know, he's got a great long-run car as long as he keeps the tires in one piece. Going to be a challenge now that he just slid them a bit down the front stretch, but I'm sure he can still regroup and get back at it. Still watching this battle for about the 5th spot, 6th, 7th as well in there as Noggle tries to work back around Maurer in the background. Barlow's got company from Winters.
Winters going to try and make the dive bomb go into turn number 1. Barlow, very wide entry, and that's easily going to allow the number 52 Justin Winters to get on around, so move him up into the 6th position as Barlow falls back to 7th, as now they try and catch up to the 48 of Jack Bauer and move himself back up into the top 5. And still Nicholas Noggle. It's an incredible run, obviously. Not the restart he wanted, having to fall that far back. And I honestly would not be surprised if he's a little bit frustrated with the fact of how hard those two are battling, because he's out here trying to fight for a championship, and now he's having to watch those two go side by side for so long and not being able to decide who wants that position more.
Yeah, they weren't side by side for quite a while there, and that actually did push Casey Barlow up to the very top of the racetrack a couple times. I'm watching him right now to see what his idea of the right line is now that they're single file. It seems like he's kind of running the middle and to the inside of the corners. Got one car down on the pit lane, then no trouble there. One of the lap cars down there is Justin Winters. Slides up a little bit out of the corner. And I had kind of thought maybe Casey Barlow was being a little strategic running that high up, but it seems to me like he wants the bottom side now that he's got the opportunity to go wherever he wants, being single file. We'll have to watch this 51 car. This car might come around him over the length of the run like Nick Noggle's car is expected to do again. And I think once we get to that point, we should be able to see the 08 car charging back up and making these guys fight for their spots on the track a little bit more.
Boy, the glare down to turn 1 is certainly ramping up, much like the intensity here at the Phoenix Raceway. And this is a place I really enjoy seeing races all the time. I'm still maybe not quite sold on using it for a championship venue, I'll be honest, but it's somewhere that I experienced my first races as a child, and I certainly have a personal affinity towards the racetrack, but also, as Noah mentioned towards the top of the show, put on some amazing finishes with this configuration of the pavement here in Avondale, and kind of unfortunate that they moved it just personally to the exit of what was turn number 2, but I honestly can't argue against that configuration either. It's just, I mean, I don't know, it just felt right on this front stretch that we see here. But certainly, I'm happy always to revisit Phoenix Raceway, to be back here in any capacity, and be talking about this 1 mile stretch of asphalt here in Arizona. As, whoa, John Kinder. That was a heck of a save down the dog leg. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him out of the corner, but he does have a lot of right side damage. I wonder if he just popped the fence.
Possibly so, because he made a dive all the way down there to the inside of the dog leg. He thought maybe he was going to try to make a desperation move on Wyatt Brackett to take back third, but that it was not the case. When the fact there's a little bit of damage to the right side of that Rims 1-4 Mustang. You're going to look on board. If he's going to make the exit out of the corner, drifts a little bit up high, there's it into the wall, and then he just dives it straight for the apron to try and not lose as much speed as he does. And actually, that's how he got past. I thought he was trying to make a move on Wyatt Brackett. No, he actually lost the position because of that, so that moves him back to 4th once again, as he's going to try and have to find a way around number 33, as he's having a pretty off night. Still running up there in about the 4th spot, but we've seen him be really strong up there, being a championship contender most of the season, running up there in the top 2, but he just hasn't been able really to break that mold and get up there, as now the 38 David Brackett back on the racetrack, still very much off the pace, and I would not expect him to be on here much longer. Maybe bring it back down pit road once again.
Well, he is definitely staying down to the inside. It doesn't want to be interfering with anybody's races up there. It was kind of interesting to see those races still charging on, but unfortunately David Brackett kind of out of the picture for those, and he's just trying to get a couple laps ticked off and try to get to the end of this race now. He's very far down the running order, 24 laps down in current spots, and maybe we'll see now if he's got a little bit of pace in this car still down the back, as they've all kind of cleared him, and see him get back up to speed. Just let everybody through and run their race on their own. Very respectable out of David Brackett. Obviously, we run a very respected series here amongst the drivers. They put a lot of respect into each other when they come out onto the racetracks, and David Brackett showing that right there. You're looking at Jack Bauer once again. John Kinder right in front of him, Justin Winters right behind him as they go into turn number 3, trying to see if he can get a couple more spots and get a couple more points out of the championship for himself, and try to move a little forward in the final standings at the conclusion of Season 2.
And let's talk about the fact that Matt Grenier has worked himself out to a nice little gap once more over the rest of the field. In fact, it's over 2 seconds again, back to Brandon Robertson. This is pretty big here for Grenier. If this race stays green, it's going to be tough to catch him. That said, we've seen these drivers do it once before, but certainly looking like he's got a nice little cushion here towards the start of stage number 2. Watching these guys battle down the front stretch now. Robertson still second, then Brackett, Kinder, Bauer, Winters, Noggle. They just can't get away from one another, staying in a single file line.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've seen throughout most of the race. Once you get towards the middle of that green flag run, the field just starts to single file their way out. It tries to run as many laps as they can and get closer to the end. And you're seeing up there Winters trying to make the move around the 48 of Bauer through turns 3 and 4. Bauer going to try and diamond the corner a little bit off of turn number 4 as he makes the run down the straightaway, as it looks like Winters might have caught the wall, as Bauer's going to try and find a way to get around John Kinder up there for the 4th position.
You've got Robertson, you've got Wyatt Brackett, you've got John Kinder and Jack Bauer, you've got Justin Winters as well. There's Bauer looking to peek down the inside. Maybe he's going to send it in there. No. A little bit of defensive movement from the 21 machine to get to the lower side of that corner. Justin Winters now catches up to the tail of Jack Bauer as they come back out of turn number 4 to the front stretch again. Side by side, they'll go into turn number 1. On the outside, Justin Winters trying to carry some momentum, doesn't quite get there. Jack Bauer is going to retain that spot for the time being. John Kinder gets a little bit of a gap off and holds on to 5th place a little more solidly as they come through the dog leg. Again, they're back to single file, trying to trek on, catch back up to that Rims 1 number 21 machine.
And the early portion of this race really seemed to kind of drag on a little bit since we've hit, I want to say, about lap 120 or so. It's really started to steam ahead. I'll do my usual knock on wood right there just to try not to jinx us. But suddenly this race is really picking up pace and feeling like it's getting into its latter stages here soon, Noah. We're getting closer and closer to that mark where these guys should make their final trip down the pit lane. And of course, we've seen 4, 5, 6, even 7 trips down the pit lane for some of these drivers. They've got to be running out of tires. I hope, and I would imagine they've all budgeted for themselves to all have one more set, as we see some drivers work by Brian Terry here into one. But if we do get some more cautions, we could be talking about the possibility of tire allocation coming back to bite these drivers a little bit.
Another thing we can talk about as well is you're noticing it has gotten a lot later here in the Phoenix, Arizona desert, as we could be possibly talking about maybe some night racing. And if it does come to that point where the sun does go down and the moon comes up, then it's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to really change the conditions of the track, as these drivers are going to tackle and deal with that for the rest of the night.
Yeah, that's certainly a big factor there, Noah. Obviously, if the track cools off a little bit, they'll have a little bit more grip in those tires, and maybe they'll last a little longer over these runs, which wouldn't help guys like maybe Nick Noggle and Brandon Robertson, those guys who've had really strong cars in long runs, because it would allow some of the guys maybe more of the short run speed to hold on to their tires a little longer. One of those guys being Matt Grenier, who's obviously built out a huge lead over Brandon Robertson on this run. But, you know, as we get closer to the end of it, you could possibly see, whoa, somebody's getting way loose down there. That was Justin Winters getting way loose out of turn number 2. Gets control of the car and actually tries to use it to his advantage, maybe on the inside of Jack Bauer to get a spot out of it. Not quite going to get there. They're oh so close out of turn number 4. They're letting Noggle catch up, though, and that's definitely what he needs. But, yeah, as the track gets cooler and cools off a little bit, lets the tires breathe a little bit more. Not much, but maybe a little bit more. We'll maybe see some of the shakeups on who's got the better car over the course of the mid stages of either runs.
It's incredible how resourceful these drivers can be. When they mess up, they use it to their advantage. Isn't that kind of wild how Justin Winters was able to use that to be able to get by Jack Bauer, and that was for the top 5 position of position number 5. Noggle now, well, he just got in front of Bauer, and I thought Bauer was going to look back to the inside into one, but no, I think Jack, accepting the fact that Noggle is just really, really good on a long run, staying in behind, and of course, Jack is just out here to see if he can get some more points, grab another position or two. He's not out here to ruffle any feathers. He's just out here to have a nice, quiet finish here to season number 2, and he's had a great season. We've talked so much about Jack Bauer. He really, I think, surprised the field beginning back at Charlotte Motor Speedway early on in this season, where it seemed like he should have had his first race win. Since then, he's been in the forefront of everybody's conversation, and when we initially noticed his rise to the top, Noah, one of the first things that we talked to Jason Collins, league admin, about is the fact that Jack Bauer turned up the wick by just joining practice more and more and running more and more practice. And I think since then he's been in just about every single series held practice that there has been, and it's clearly paid off, making it into the playoffs, and not just making it into the playoffs and kind of falling flat on his face in the first round. No, making it into the second round of the playoffs, and I think next season he'll be into the third round and possibly even into the Final Four. I mean, the guy's got speed, and it's only going to go up from here.
Yeah, it's kind of where the saying goes, practice makes perfect, and showing up to those practice sessions and learning this setup goes a long way and gives you a huge advantage against the guys that don't do that. And because of that, that has allowed him to really run up here in the top 10, has made himself become one of these championship contenders, as it looks like Winters went for quite a wild ride down towards the inside, as he said it there, but still. A really big breakout season for the 48 Jack Bauer, and I think you're right to say that's not far off to believe that Jack Bauer could possibly be a championship contender next year if the momentum keeps going the way that it has been for him, how it has this entire season.
Yeah, and that's definitely showing those guys up at the front end. Maybe, you know, Brandon Robertson, Matt Grenier, those guys have been strong. John Kinder, too, especially. Those guys have been very strong over the course of both Season 1 and Season 2. But, you know, every season there's a new chance for somebody to come up there and give them challenge, and I think that's something that's really great about this series, though, especially we saw it this season and would look forward to seeing it in the next one, that you could see some new names coming up to the top step of the podium. I mean, Matt Grenier broke through this year, got his first win with the series at Charlotte, and you know, a couple new rookies who got wins at the beginning of the season. Obviously Casey Barlow was one of them and fought pretty well into the playoffs as well in that 51 machine. So I think, you know, every time there's a new season, it's a chance for those guys to pull up something together and maybe, who knows, Jack Bauer could get a win in Season 3, if not even tonight. The 48's looking pretty good, and if he gets a couple breaks, he could be up at the top step by the end of it. He's got Nick Noggle and John Kinder right in front of him, though, 2 guys in the championship hunt, so they're definitely not going to give it to him easily, but they might race each other pretty nice, and maybe, just maybe, he'll get a chance.
Yeah, we've kind of been lulled into talking about all these storylines to wrap up the season, which is certainly not a bad thing, but let's remind ourselves and everybody watching about the championship battle at hand. Of course, Matt Grenier, he comes in as, I guess, the second seed based on the previous 3 rounds this playoff season, and he comes in, well, was 25 points out of the points lead at the conclusion of last week's race at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. But since starting on pole this evening, the 15 car has been one of, if not the car to beat. 144 laps led is way more than anybody else, and all he's got to do is lead another 12, and, well, he's got the most laps led wrapped up for himself. So Matt Grenier certainly doing amazing things this evening in his bid for the championship at the Phoenix Raceway. Brandon Robertson right in behind. I'd say the favorite all season long, and possibly even the other favorite this evening for sure. 45 laps led, 1 stage 1, and the 2 car, it's just so hard to bet against him. It's becoming a bit easier as this race goes on and Grenier continues to lead, but still, I think very, very hard to assume that Robertson isn't going to get this championship. He's won so many races this season. He won the stage earlier tonight, and this guy is certainly, I think, just the best of the bunch so far here in 2021. Nicholas Noggle, he's now to the top 5 by John Kinder falling back, and, well, it's been a very up and down night for him, Noah, wouldn't you say, after a couple of incidents with Adam Lancaster and even a couple of others. Thankfully, he's back into the top 5, driving a modified out there. It's kind of incredible what he's doing.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes to the fact that he has a little bit of that real-world experience, having raced late models, and with this track kind of being up his wheelhouse, being a little bit of a flat 1-mile track that might just have played out, because he was very strong when we went to Loudon earlier in the season, and now it's just kind of showing again, running a modified, running up in the top 5 has just been so impressive to watch. But sadly, though, with John Kinder, we were kind of having high hopes, but this has been kind of a very off night for him. The fact that he's led 0 laps, the fact that he hasn't really been that much of a fighter for the championship, that's not what we're used to seeing out of him. He has been one of the strongest contenders for this championship throughout most of the season, just not able to get that win. But he's always at least ran up there in the lead at some point in the race. But tonight he's just not been able to do that. And you're showing right here, having fallen all the way back to now the 7th position, and the highest he's ever gotten was the 2nd place position. So he's came very close, but a very off night for a guy who, in a lot of people's eyes, could have been one of the favorites for the championship with how he ran last year and how strong he's run this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's had so many great performances where he won stages easily. I mean, so many stage 1 wins that he just got no challenge even. But as the races ticked off to the ending stages, something would inevitably come up and bite him in the tail and send that 21 car out of the lead. And he just didn't break through to get a win all season long, but he showed consistency and he showed patience to come out every week, just do the practice, get the car set up, be able to run well up at the front end and try to compete for wins. And he's done that all season long. Today, the field's going to put in as much effort as they can to try to have one last hoorah in the last race of the season. And maybe, John Kinder just not quite on top of the rest of them as he was the last few races. I mean, not to take anything away from him, he ran as high as 2nd place in this event, as you're looking back up there to where 2nd place is. But, he try to put it together as best you can. And, I mean, the race still isn't over. There's over 100 laps left, so you could still see something out of that 21.
112 laps remain, this time by the flag stand, watching the battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and even 5th back there, Nicholas Noggle in frame. As really, it's mostly the battle for 3rd. Winners all over the 33 of bracket. You see Brian Terry up ahead of these guys now again, as, wow, Matt Grenier has opened up a 3-second race lead currently. This is incredible stuff that he's doing to the rest of the field. I certainly did not expect this kind of run out of the 15 car. In fact, the 3 of us, we picked Brandon Robertson, we picked Nicholas Noggle, we picked John Kinder. Grenier is certainly on the radar, but I don't think quite for a run like this. This is amazing stuff that we're seeing the 15 do, and I don't think we had any indication either that this would be the kind of run that he'd have this evening. working up to exactly half of the race led so far, and it's only going to keep going up from there. We've still got over 100 laps to go, in fact 110 this time by the flag stand. I wouldn't be surprised if he leads 90 or more.
Absolutely so. Matt Grenier has just been on a charge the entire race. We kind of talked about how nobody can really beat Brandon Robertson, but Matt Grenier has just had a very strong race top to bottom. He's had to fight him for quite a bit, but just looking at it right now, having opened up a 3-second gap compared to where he was earlier in the race just really shows that the pace of this number 15 has been on another level compared to where he's been most of the season, where he has had very close fights throughout most of the field. But tonight, he has just been on his A game and giving out one of the best performances of the season that we've seen from him in a while. But we do have something interesting going on, as now Justin Winters moves up into the second position, demoting Brandon Robertson down to third, as now Robertson is going to be stuck in a sandwich of a lot of cars who would love nothing more to get around him, as Nagel now could possibly be in a position where he could become the second in the championship standings, as the only thing separating those two is the number 33 of Wyatt Brackett.
Yeah, I even think that Nick Nagel might even be having a better run long term with this car than Brandon Robertson did, and Brandon Robertson was the guy who was fighting with Matt Grenier up at the front end when we got later into the stage of the run that he could catch back up to that 15 car. Right now, Justin Winters obviously has taken second place from the 2 machine. Wyatt Brackett in front of us here on board with Nick Nagel, but it's worth noting maybe Nick Nagel's car is even a little better on the long run than the number 2 machine, and if so, when is he going to get the chances to get around that 2 car? This is definitely shaping up into a race that Nick Nagel maybe didn't expect to have. Certainly up here in the booth, we didn't expect to see him charging up so quickly to the top 5 even of the racing order, and it's just, you know, a testament to his motivation to keep this car going and to try to charge forward and maybe still make something out of this championship hunt.
This is incredible stuff. I'm going to keep saying that out of Nicholas Nagel. I'm not so sure it's a championship-winning car when you look at Matt Grenier. And I know we've talked about the long-run speed here for the 08 car and the fact that he has been equaling or bettering the race leaders for much of the long run, even with his damage. Well, that's kind of petered off a little bit. He's still faster more often than not than Brandon Robertson, but about a tenth and a half behind Matt Grenier right now. So even this far into the run, the only driver that is able to continue this kind of pace right now is a driver that I don't think we expected to keep this kind of pace at all, based on lap number 1 of this race, Justin Winters. As this race has gone on, he's learned what he's needed to do to try and keep up with race leaders, and he's doing that and more. In fact, continuing to run just a little bit quicker than race leader Matt Grenier, the 52 car, suddenly putting things together. And I think for Matt Grenier, he has certainly noticed what he did wrong, maybe what he needed to improve on there in stage 1, Noah, and has done nothing but improve since then. Of course, he fired off very quickly, very early, but then over the course of that first half, started to fall back into Robertson's hands. He fired off a bit more slowly in this stage, and has since continued to just drive away and completely gap the field, only until now, where Justin Winters is starting to just inch away very, very slowly at that lead. I'm just not so sure that that's enough with the few laps that we've got to pit stops.
Yeah, now closing in now on 100 laps to go here. The idea of a green flag pit stop, it'd be the first time we saw that all night. We've had quite a few cautions come out at the right time to kind of give us these caution pit stops rather than green flag pit stops. But obviously with how Matt Grenier has run tonight, you can tell he did learn a little bit of how this car handles, because in that first one we saw, he did open up the gap quite a bit, but he kind of fell off a cliff, and then ever since then he was just right in the clutches in number 2. But ever since the second half started, he has really just flipped a switch and now has ran away with this race, as he is really putting a show out there and kind of proving everybody wrong, because we all kind of looked at everybody else as who we picked. Obviously, Andrew picked Robertson, I picked Nagel, and Joe picked Kinder, but nobody really picked Grenier, which is really what kind of separating us from everybody else, because he's been very quiet. We didn't really think of him as much of a contender. We thought maybe he might be running up a second like how he has been all year long, but this has really been the race where he decided to put everything out there, and he has just ran away with this race for the most part. And now the only the challenge he has now is going to be the number 52 Justin Winters.
Looking to get inside of 100 laps to go by the time they hit the stripe here. Matt Grenier leading with about a 2.5 second lead over Justin Winters. Brandon Robertson running in the third position with Wyatt Brackett and Nick Noggle, who were very close, running and battling for that spot for quite a while there. Been pretty cool to see those guys getting into it with each other. Noggle trying to make something out of that machine without the front bumper, and it's pretty impressive to have seen that as they come through right now. You're seeing on your screen, there's Grenier, there's Winters coming through behind him, and Winters goes, I think, up into the wall a little bit and cuts down the whole way through the dog leg.
Thankfully keeps the car underneath him. I don't see right side damage, I don't think, on the 52 car, but I could be mistaken. No, it looks pretty clean. He may have just gotten a bit loose like he did earlier, and like we've seen a few other drivers do. I think Nick Mills was one of those drivers most prominently getting loose out of turn number 2. I haven't seen too many other drivers get loose up out of the second corner of the racetrack this evening. But boy, Mills is just putting, or sorry, not Mills, Winters is putting together an amazing back end to this run. He's down inside of 2 seconds up to Grenier. I just don't know how long Justin can keep this kind of pace up. He's now putting on, it looks like, well, at his best, it's looking like at least, oh my gosh, that lap was a half second on Matt Grenier. This is insane.
Yeah, Winters would love nothing more to be the guy that kind of ruins the fun for all the championship leaders. Obviously, with the fact that he's not running for a championship, like I said, a guy, it's kind of like the same thing at Bristol. A guy who, or I believe it was at Talladega, a guy that really has nothing to lose is more than likely the most dangerous because they have nothing left to lose. And right now, he would love nothing more than to have that momentum booster to kind of give him a little bit of an edge going into next season to get prepared for that, to try and run for another championship. And if he can steal a win from the champion going into the final race, which is what this entire playoff was kind of built for, that would really be the most interesting factor of this race and really kind of just put Winters on the map, possibly being a favorite going into next season.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Momentum carrying forward into next season would be something that Winters is searching for. At the same time, Jack Bauer right here fighting with Wyatt Brackett for 5th spot. Nick Noggle not quite there in the shot as he is kind of gapping those guys off the front. But right now, I mean, they're going single file right here, right in front of John Kinder, who's definitely looking to try to get around those guys and start charging on to get into a good spot for this final pit stop run and then move forward in that final run to get back up there with the rest of the guys in the championship hunt. Side by side out of turn number 4 again, Wyatt Brackett on the inside. Jack Bauer gets some momentum, pulls him down the front stretch, but they go into the corner. Brackett's going to send it in there at 33 car on the inside, going to try to edge just barely ahead out of the corner. Bauer with some momentum on the top side. Nice little race going on here between these two, trying to round out the top 5 right as we get into the beginning stages of where we're going to maybe soon start seeing within 20 laps or so guys coming in for their final pit stops.
Kinder to the inside of Bauer as well. This is the battle for 5th, 6th, 7th on the racetrack. But, guys, Justin Winters, I don't know where this speed is suddenly coming from, but I love it. He's absolutely going to play spoiler in some regard. We're already almost to lap 220. In fact, it'll be 220 this time out of the corner. Oh my gosh, this is insane. Down within a half second of race leader Matt Grenier. I wonder if Matt Grenier is going to worry at all about Justin Winters. Is he going to battle him? Is he going to start reacting to this charge from the 52 car, or does he let Justin go on by? That, I think, is certainly an interesting point to bring up. The fact that he can let him go on by and Matt's still in the championship position absolutely would still have the championship lead as they stand, because, again, points no longer matter. It's just a matter of the top 4, which are Grenier running 1st, Robertson running 3rd, Noggle running 4th, and Kinder running 6th.
Yeah, obviously, Grenier doesn't really have much to fight for. When you're not fighting for the championship, I think the best thing he can do is just let Winters take away the lead position and just go take the win, because at the end of the day, what's really going to matter more, getting the final race win of the season or getting the championship and really upsetting your own teammate? So I would not really expect much of a fight out of him. If he really is conservative as how he has been when running in the pack, I think he's just going to let that 52 go on by, just ride around it to the end, hope a caution doesn't come out, and then just leave Phoenix the champion of the Bluegrass iRacing series. So I would honestly just expect him just to stick back there and just keep running the conservative line that he has been, because he has almost a 5-second gap to his teammates. So just let him on by and don't ruin your race car this late in the race.
Yeah, that would certainly be a more conservative more logical approach to having this car coming on so fast behind you. But at the same time, you don't want Matt Grenier to be too aggressive and defensive on being the leader. I mean, that's one car behind him that is sitting in between himself and Brandon Robertson, which is a little bit of a safety net for Matt Grenier and the championship that he would think Robertson would have to get around Winters before he even had a chance to start competing with Grenier. Obviously, though, Justin Winters has absolutely turned on the afterburners, and that 52 car coming on very strong here. So Grenier, if he can't hold him back, he doesn't want to race him too hard. Like Noah said, being conservative and trying to just kind of run your line, run your rhythm, and get to the end of this race could very well put Matt Grenier in championship form for the end of this event. I mean, he's been running so strong already, and he's proven he's got the car to do it. Maybe that is the right move.
His top two still going at it, or well, starting to go at it, I'd say, is suddenly Justin Winters in the forefront of our minds this evening. This is incredible pace. I really wish he'd been able to keep things up through the course of the season and be in our Final Four for this one. This would be incredible, having these two start to battle with about 80 laps to go, and when we come back around about lap 232, we'll have 80 to go. So 85, we'll say. This would be amazing to have these two be the two that go at it and have, as Noah's been saying lately, a slobber knocker to the finish. This is shaping up to be a great race for the race win overall, and it seems like Grenier's maybe even turned up the wick without jeopardizing his race lead or his championship lead. He's starting to keep himself just ahead of Justin Winters, and they're actually gapping Brandon Robertson and Nicholas Noggle. It's incredible what these two are doing, and here you have Brandon Robertson with Nicholas Noggle in tow. CJ Mason there in frame as well, as Wyatt Brackett has fallen back a bit but stays in 5th spot. Mason is a lap down. The rest of the top 10 going to be Kinder, Barlow, Bauer, Hunter, and Lancaster. And I just want to mention before this sunset goes away, let's take a look at this sunset here in Avondale, Arizona. This is incredible.
A very beautiful sight, obviously, with the Arizona mountains back there and the skyline off of during the backstretch between 2 and 3. It kind of gives it a very much picturesque view. And honestly, if I wish I owned a Phoenix Raceway on this site, so that way I could take some pictures from the hillsides over there in turns 3 or 4, because the fact that fans hike up there just to get a view is honestly one of the coolest things about this racetrack. It's what makes this track so unique, is the idea that you can literally go out, get a tent, hike up a hill, and then just sit up there and watch the race from honestly probably the best view of the racetrack, with the mountain skyline in the background and the whole view of the track right there with you.
Yeah, you bring up a little radio, you get some binoculars, you rock up there, you get some nice pictures, and you just kind of watch the race and chill up there. I've never been out west anywhere remotely near Arizona, but it is one track that I think would be awesome to tick off the list in due time. You got Wyatt Brackett coming down the pit lane, so kind of leading the way on everybody trying to come through and get ready for the ending stages of this race. That 33 Chevrolet coming down to get some service, maybe be able to trek on to the completion of this race. See a couple cars sitting here on pit lane. His dad, David, and Nick Mills down there as well, as the 33 is going to slide on into his pit stall. Try not to go too far too short, and nice stop for him.
Winters still pursuing Grenier. This gap has opened up a little bit. You mentioned the mountains around here, Noah. It's the Estrella Mountain Range here in southern Arizona, in the Avondale area, technically, a little ways south of Phoenix, Arizona. And a little factoid that I had actually noticed while researching the track today is, let's see, I've got to find it again. I've got it a long time, but here we go. So at the top of the hill, Rattlesnake Hill, lies a USGS benchmarker known as Gila and Salt River Meridian, now listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Long before Phoenix Raceway existed, the spot was the original land survey point for all of what later became the state of Arizona. I don't know why, but that just kind of stood out to me as this racetrack being built virtually on the site of the original survey point of the state of Arizona. That just kind of amazes me. And there's a lot of mountains in Arizona. I don't know if you guys know this or not, watching or with me in the booth. There's a lot of mountains in the state. I know California, Nevada, they have some bigger ones, but there are several different ranges that make this place up. And it kind of sticks out to me that this mountain, this hill, would be an original survey point as opposed to the mountains running through the center of the state, up by Prescott and such. I don't know. Something that stood out to me as being from Arizona, but it's a really cool factoid that this place is so close to something that mattered more than just 70 or so years ago when the track was built in the 60s. And that mattered back in the 1800s, and then again in 1912 when the state was founded.
Honestly, one of the more interesting things, all these tracks that you go to have a little bit of history with them, whether like back at Loudon, it being the granite state, and the little fun fact that they have the strip of granite on the front straightaway, the start-finish line, and that's their start-finish line. That's not something a whole lot of people know, or I don't think many people know about the fact about Phoenix being on the survey land point that gave the state what it is. So just a very interesting history lesson here tonight at the Phoenix International Raceway, and it's just one of the fun things about racing is all the little hidden all the interesting history facts that come along with it. As you look back at Jack Bauer and Casey Barlow, as John Kinder now going to make the trip down pit road.
Rims 1 Ford Mustang number 21 down to the pit lane. The driver John Kinder has kind of been trekking through this race, trying to hold on as best as he can with the guys up front, maybe see if he can adjust this car a little bit and try to run this last run out as best as possible and get back up in contention with Grenier and Robertson up at the front end. Even Nick Noggle now. He has been the guy at the tail of those 4 championship contenders for a little while, so maybe he'll try to turn things around here with a little undercut on the rest of these guys as they continue to tick off laps. Justin Winters holding on pretty strongly to Matt Grenier. He's closed the gap up a little bit more again to the tail of the 15 as we got Casey Barlow coming down the pit lane as well.
Barlow down for service, just waiting on this top 2 to decide when they want to come in. They're certainly running a bit deeper than they need to. Looks like Bryce Hunter on the pit lane as well out of turn number 4. I'm surprised these guys are running a bit deeper. I would have thought that we'd see an undercut by now, be it from Robertson or anybody else towards the front. Well, I guess we're seeing it from Kinder. We're now seeing it from Jack Bauer down the pit lane. But I'm surprised these guys in the front running for a race win have not pitted just yet. Especially with as common as it is to see out of Brandon Robertson. Maybe we'll see it this time by possibly Robertson. Nope, he's going to stay out.
Yeah, I think what they're going to try and do is try and stay out as much as they can to try and give himself that little bit of fuel in case a caution does come out, sending us into overtime. Or maybe just trying to have as much tires as they can for the finish so that way they can fight on throughout the rest of the race. So you see right there 7 lead changes on here tonight as we're really eyeing up on maybe getting our 8th lead change, is how hard Justin Winters running up there for the race lead as they make it off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway once again. But still, it's been incredible how long. The fact that they've only had 5 cautions for 19 laps and a 239 lap how far we made it is just absolutely incredible. It shows just how well these guys can race around each other week after week after week. And maybe we can get this thing all the way green to the end, because if we do, we might just have an absolute incredible finish on our hands, just how close these two have been fighting for about the last 20, almost 30 laps.
Yeah, it's definitely worth noting that we've had so few cautions for how long this race is. Obviously a full-length race, and only to have 5 cautions, that's not too bad at all, even having a stage involved there too. You got Nick Noggle looking down the inside of Brandon Robertson as they come through turns 1 and 2. Actually, I was about to say some more things about the length of this race, but before I do, Nick Noggle obviously got through to the inside, put that 08 car back up into 3rd spot. Yeah, just charging on through this long run. I think that's really paying into the favor of Nick Noggle. And hey, maybe these guys are even thinking, if I come in sooner, I lose the abilities of my long run car. So maybe these guys will use the strategy of the long race to trek forward a couple more laps before they come down to the pit lane.
That certainly is an option here, Joe. I'm still ever surprised that these guys are charging even further. Getting close to 70 laps to go. In fact, this will be 71 the next time by the stripe. And you know what? It looks like Winters starting to fall back a little bit. I think if you're Justin Winters, this could be the perfect time to come down the pit lane and try and undercut Grenier. Of course, Winters not having to think about the championship. And, well, here's one driver who is thinking about the championship. This is rather abrupt. I didn't see him come out of the pit lane at all. Did I miss something here?
It is very interesting that he's coming down. Maybe the fact he might have towed back, but I don't think so. He might have just snuck in pit road when nobody was watching. But again, he's very good at this whole undercut strategy. So I would not be too surprised if Kenner just came down and he's going to try and pull an undercut to put himself in a better position when the rest of the field pits, because now he's going to be on the offense. So yeah, there he goes. So he just came down there when nobody was looking, and now he's going to get his final 4 tires and fuel for the rest of this event and try to pull the undercut to take back that race lead from Matt Grenier as we await the rest of the leaders to come down pit road.
Yeah, Brandon Robertson is one of those guys who can pull the undercut pretty successfully. He's done it before, looking to do it again here on Matt Grenier rather this time than John Kinder previously in the series. Grenier, Justin Winters, Nick Noggle, guys leading the way at the front end of the field for quite a while, have come into the pit lane. So you've got the 15 cars in pit stall number 1. Justin Winters just behind him in pit stall number 2. The 15's out and away. Justin Winters follows him out. Nick Noggle a little bit further back behind him as Adam Lancaster has adopted the race lead temporarily. And there goes Noggle getting a little bit of help on that car. He goes out and away to try to get to the checkered flag of this one.
And this driver now the race leader. It's Adam Lancaster into 1 and 2. Leading the way for the first time all evening long. Has not pitted in, get this, 83 laps. We don't usually talk about lap counts that high. I mean, we you know, of course we have half-length I'll get there. Half-filled fuel tanks. There we go. Yeah, half-capacity fuel tanks here in the Bluegrass iRacing Series, as well as the LTAC Cup Series at the end of the week on Friday nights. So we don't usually ever talk about these guys going this far on a full tank of fuel. This is kind of insane that he has stayed out this far, but hey, he wants to go out there and get some laps led and get himself on the broadcast for a better reason than earlier on when he had those run-ins with Nick Noggle, and it's certainly working for Lancaster. Wyatt Brackett, he pitted a while earlier, and this is the difference. This is the undercut by not just a couple laps. This is the undercut, rather, by 14 laps for Wyatt Brackett. He's got just under 2 seconds still to Matt Grenier, but of course those tires very worn out at this point. I think he undercut by a little too much, and he should get passed up here pretty soon.
Yeah, but another thing to keep in mind as well is I talked about Brandon Robertson trying to pull an undercut. Well, it didn't really work out that well because he's all the way back in 9th. He is now almost battling for about to become the 4th position in the championship 4 as he's right there with with Nicholas Noggle once again. As you look again up towards Matt Grenier as he looks to take away the runner-up position, as now he's going to have to try and pull down a 7-second deficit to catch up to Lancaster, who is still yet to come to pit road, as Matt Grenier now sets a new fastest lap of the night so far, as he's really, like Joe said, put it on the afterburner. He's going to try and do what he can to catch up, as Lancaster is actually starting to open up a gap, because now the gap is 8.4 seconds.
Yeah, Grenier definitely showing he's got the charge going and he's got that fastest lap now, but at the same time, Adam Lancaster is going to come down to the pit lane and let them go. So he's going to get service on the Ghostface Brewing Rims 1, number 28 machine here, and that will let Matt Grenier recoup the race lead. Wyatt Brackett in P number 2 right here, as Justin Winters has gone to 3rd spot. Grenier did pull that fastest lap, proving he's going for it right now, put on the afterburners and trying to rocket out a couple more laps to get to the finish of this race. But you got to be careful with those tires. You don't want to burn them out too quickly. Let your competitors have the upper edge as you get closer to the checkered flag.
Justin Winters now on Wyatt Brackett. This would be for the 2nd place on the racetrack, and Grenier and Winters certainly spaced out at the start of this run. Grenier is so good on those new tires. He's been able to use them to his advantage here to start things out. The lights coming on here at the Phoenix Raceway in Avondale, Arizona. We are racing into the evening hours. Here's a nice gaggle of race cars up out of the final corner. Lancaster rejoining these guys now a lap down on some new tires, though. And Barlow's in the mix of things. Bryce Hunter, John Kinder, you got Jack Bauer up ahead. These guys all racing for some mid-pack spots. But it does look like Hunter and Lancaster both 1 lap down. The rest of these guys will lead lap.
Yeah, a lot of mixtures of cars now, as now we only have 9 cars left on the lead lap. CJ Mason obviously being the last car on the lead lap, as now you're just seeing the rest of the field with that's kind of the case, just how with these long green flag runs, you're going to see a lot more of the field start to fall back from the leaders in this green flag pit stop cycle. Obviously a big factor in that, as again, you're looking up there with the number 21 of John Kinder still having a very off night, about holding on to a pretty substantial gap between his other championship contenders, as now Nicholas Noggle, in fact, has actually gotten around number 2, Brandon Robertson. So now for the first time tonight, Robertson is 4th in the championship standings of the Final 4. So very much falling off the pace, as that undercut did not work how well he wanted, and now he's running all the way back almost. Yeah, he is the last car on the lead lap where it stands right now, so not what he wants at all here in this final race of the season.
I think it's pretty interesting to note that Nick Noggle, the car that we maybe talked about being more of a late run car up to this point, has at least been able to pass Brendan Robertson at this point. You see Robertson just putting it on in the middle of the corner, definitely not going to give that position up easily to Nick Noggle, but for the moment, he's running in P number 7 and maybe trek on forward, see if he could take a little bit of a bite out of the gap to Casey Barlow. Barlow's got a car right in front of him there too, so that might let Nick Noggle catch up, as he's got Brendan Robertson all over his tail, so we've got one to worry about out the tail as well. I gotta say, we got a long way into this race. We're hitting we got about 58 laps to go right now. We really haven't had any stressing to fill air time. You know, we've had a lot of really great racing and a lot of really cool stuff to talk about here in this event tonight.
And I want to mention, as we come up to, it looks like 60 laps to go. Yes, 60 laps to go this time by the flag stand. Grenier, I mean, he's got effectively an 8-second race lead. Now, Justin Winters may be only about 7/10 behind, but his first championship competitor is John Kinder in 5th position, 8.3, almost 8.4 seconds behind Matt Grenier. So effectively, again, it's an 8.5-second race lead right now for Matt Grenier. He can sit back and calm Wade down, and it's very clear to me right now who has done their homework and who has prepared for this evening's championship race. It's pretty easy to prep for those first 15 races, but you have got to make sure that you are over-practiced for the championship race, and it's clear to me that Matt Grenier has done that.
Yeah, he's obviously done everything he needed to get ready for this race. He got his P's and Q's in mind, and he's just kind of kept at it the same way he has been the entire season, just being consistent, being not really outlandish, making moves that cost him positions. He's been very, very consistent, and probably the most consistent driver in the Bluegrass iRacing series, and it's going to pay off here tonight if he can hold on to what he has, because this has just been absolutely incredible. The performance that this number 15 has pulled off, being able to run up in the top 2 the entire duration of the event, and only falling back outside the top 2 when coming down pit road for a green flag pit stop. So it's just been absolutely incredible to see what Matt Grenier has been able to accomplish here tonight, and deservingly so. He is on his way possibly to winning his first championship, as he now has a 90-second lead to the next driver he has to worry about to taking away that championship from him.
Yeah, and I think one thing worth mentioning is we saw at the very beginning of the race, Matt Grenier had a short run car. He was very fast off the start of restarts and whatnot off that, even the initial start of the race. But over the course of the event, he kind of got the grips on how to have a long run car too. And I saw it down in the YouTube chat. Huffy Huffman down there was mentioning you got to have a long run car to win this race. And for the moment, I believe Matt Grenier's figured out how to have that. Justin Winters in second place has done the same and just trekked forward from his very initial incident in this race off of turn 4 for the first lap. He got it a little squirrely, and he's caught back up now to P2 and very easily could be knocking on the door for the race lead here. But for the moment, Matt Grenier holding on to it. I think Justin might be waiting a little bit to try to take some laps off before he gets aggressive like that. We got plenty of time left in this race, but getting closer to the finish.
A battle that's getting a little bit closer, a little bit ways behind these guys, is actually 3rd and 4th. Bauer on Brackett. We could be talking to Jack Bauer at the end of this race. He is working on a podium finish. If he can just get up there to Wyatt Brackett and go on by. Now, Wyatt's got a race win suddenly in the series. As Brisson, oh boy, a great save out of 4. Brackett suddenly has a race win after Watkins Glen earlier this season, but what a treat it would be to talk to Jack Bauer once more before this season is up. Again, this guy came on the scene suddenly at Charlotte Motor Speedway earlier in the year and was looking like certainly a lock for the playoffs once he got his speed figured out. We thought he could go even deeper, and I still think he can go even deeper than he did this season, making it to the round of 12. I think certainly the round of 8 is on the way for this guy, if not a stab at the championship for next season around here for Jack Bauer. Certainly this 48 car getting faster week in, week out, and he just might have a top 3 within him this evening. Matt Grenier still has company here from Justin Winters. This battle going nowhere, and it's worth checking in once more on Noggle and Robertson, where Robertson is still trying to chase down this 08 car, and you can see some of those battles up ahead. It's really tandem racing, oddly enough, here at Phoenix Raceway right now, where you've got Grenier and Winters, then you've got Brackett and Bauer, then you've got Well, Kinder, and it looks like he's got one car that he's racing that's a lap down. I can't tell exactly who that is off the top of my head, but then Noggle and Robertson racing themselves as well. And, oh, it looks like, what do you know, a couple of teammates, Kinder and Lancaster, working on one another here. One of those one lap down, though, and that is Lancaster. So, pockets of cars, tandems of cars through the top 7, and then you throw in one lap car and you get a total of 8.
Math. So yeah, obviously you're looking up there, and you just see John Kinder starting to fall back a little bit, and keep something in mind. Noggle is knocking on the door of taking away the 2nd overall position in the points, and if he does that, even that, without winning the championship, with how much damage done to that car, we say it all night. It is absolutely impressive, and just makes you wonder what he could have done if he did not have that damage. And I honestly believe if we have another caution come out and this field restacks, you're going to see Noggle possibly be a contender for that championship, and it's going to be very exciting. But it is already exciting up here as Winners has finally found a way to get side by side there with Matt Grenier. Grenier going to clear him off of turn number 4. They are going to go nose to tail through turns 1 and 2 as Grenier going to slide up once again and possibly expect the dive from Justin Winters. He is still trying to take away that race lead from your current championship leader.
Justin Winters, one of those guys who brings a big fan base with him to these broadcasts. He sends it in there, had to actually get that car checked up and slowed down to not make contact with Grenier out of turn number 4 this time. Really loose this 52 seems to be as they go down the front stretch again. He gets it under control and will try to figure out how to get around the 15 again. Grenier slides up a little bit in the middle of the turn. It looks like, that was a lot of sliding out of Justin Winters there out of turn number 2. That seems to be a problem spot for Justin. He's had a couple instances of getting loose out of that corner, and it didn't bite him that time, but definitely not what he needs to do to wear out those tires so quick.
Winters still working on Matt Grenier, and we are to the far side of 50 laps to go here at the Phoenix Raceway. This, the final race of the Bluegrass iRacing series here in season number 2. Last season, it was all Justin Winters and Travis Miller. When it came down to it, in the 267-lap race at Kentucky Speedway, Travis Miller edged things out over who we thought was one of the favorite, well, obviously one of the favorites making it to that championship battle, but honestly maybe had a leg up on Travis most of the race. It was Justin Winters. Now looking for redemption possibly one season later, not in contention for the championship, but certainly for this race win as we get closer and closer to 40 laps to go. Justin Winters, I think, is easily the car to beat right now. He's making a move on Matt Grenier.
Yeah, right now you can see the sun has gone down and the moon is starting to come up, and in not a long time someone's going to leave here with the cup. And Winters trying to get the redemption from losing that championship a year ago, trying to get the redemption of having lost the chance to fight for the championship early on at Bristol, having the uncharacteristic knockout in the round of 16. He would love nothing more to get the redemption to prove to himself that, hey, I can still do this regardless of how the season went. It's just one bad sophomore slump, and I want to come back my junior year and come back with an even better performance to try and run for this championship. As now he's going to try and size up Matt Grenier once again, who, just keep this in mind, right now I don't think he really cares too much about the fact that Grenier is running for a championship. He wants that race win, and he's basically going to be telling Grenier here, if you can either get out of the way and win this championship, or you can easily let Robertson, or leave actually John Kinder win. Actually, no, now Nicholas Noggle win this championship. And you can go back there and think about what you've done, because that number 52, Allen's Body Shop, is starting to get a little bit more aggressive. That's what I said. You got to make it to the end of the race. These two have made it to the end of the race, and now the gloves are starting to get a little bit loose, and they're about to throw them out the window here.
Hey, if you can even get into the mindset and maybe add a little bit of a psychological nerve to Matt Grenier to show your nose a little bit, show you're willing to go aggressive to get around him, he might subdue that run and let you through, as it looks like right now he does not want to go side by side through there. 3 and 4. He lets Justin Winters go single file with him this time. I don't think he's going to give up on the race lead quite yet, but Matt Grenier definitely let Justin Winters get past him in the middle of the corner, so they weren't side by side through there. New race leader is that 52 Allen's Body Shop Chevrolet. Justin Winters up front. Meanwhile, we got a nice little race going on in the mid-pack right here. Nick Noggle trying to get around the lapped car of Adam Lancaster on his outside and catch back up to Jack Bauer so he can fight for 4th spot.
And remember, this is that rivalry that's been brewing over the course of weeks and, reared its head earlier on in a very odd way. Completely coincidental that these two were in 2 cautions in a row, where Noggle made a mistake getting into the corner and, well, for all intents and purposes, dumped the 28 into turn 3. Then the 28 of Lancaster spun a little while later out of turn 4 and collected none other than Nicholas Noggle. Now Noggle trying to get on by the lap car of Lancaster to try and start working his way into a better position to maybe have a chance at this championship, but Brackett is third and is 3 cars up ahead, 2 positions up ahead of this noseless 08 car, and I just don't know that there's anything you can do about Grenier. He's out there with 10 seconds and change to his nearest competition for the championship, and we're under 40 laps to go. Unless there's a caution, and even if there is a caution, who knows what happens at that point, but unless there's a caution, quite simply, Matt Grenier has this championship done and dusted. These guys do not have to pit again. They've already made their money stop. This is it. It's either a caution or these guys have to find a way to make up 10 seconds or more.
I honestly believe that if anybody can find a way to pick up 10 seconds, it would be Noggle, because he's just been able to prove anybody wrong here tonight. He has closed the gap down a little bit. It was about almost 12 seconds. He has turned it down almost to about a second or so. But I honestly believe if we do get another caution, which could happen with how Noggle is running some of these leaders, this could really change things up. And if Noggle can get the restart he needs, he could easily be a guy that can go out there and win this championship. But he's really the only guy that I could see maybe cause a caution, because everybody else is kind of calmed down and is just kind of in a mood where they want to get this thing out to the end of the race. But Noggle's not done fighting. He wants to do everything he can to make sure he gave it his all in this championship fight. And the fact that he's on there for a 3rd place position is just incredible to watch. And obviously just hats off to him for sticking to it throughout the entirety of this race with how everything's played out.
Yeah, being able to motivate yourself to keep going, that's definitely a huge part of a race, is just to, the psychological side for the driver to just keep chugging away at these laps. There's a lot of race, to deal with here, and you could maybe give up on it early, but obviously that is not the case tonight. Looking down the inside is Nick Noggle on Jack Bauer now, so that is a pass for 4th spot, at least temporarily. Contact right there between Bauer and Lancaster, so that lap car kind of playing into the favor of Nick Noggle that time. We ride out the tail and watch that 08 drive down the front straightaway, trying to see if he can get around Wyatt Brackett. If he could get up there, he'd at least be right to the spot behind Matt Grenier. And while there is, a 10-second gap in between the two of them, that would maybe help him just a tad bit getting there in the case of maybe a late race yellow or something else coming around, that Nick Noggle could have a chance at getting this championship.
Getting closer and closer to 30 laps to go. The final 10th or so of this race almost underway, as Bauer's not quite done with Noggle. Inches closer back up to the back end of the 08 car, but, no dice that time through. Look at these two starting to battle, Robertson and Kinder. Kinder's caught right back up to this 2 car, and I don't know where Brandon's speed has gone. He won the first stage. He was the leader at the completion of 156, and since then has just fallen flat on his face.
Yeah, like I said, he tried to pull the undercut move during the last round of green flag pit stops, but it did not work out well for him, and he's been stuck all the way back here in this traffic. And with that dirty air, it's just really bogged him down, and all he can do now is just watch the championship that he worked so hard for slip away. Obviously, the soreness of losing the championship might be a little less with the idea that his teammate wins the championship, but still, like we said, at the end of that stage caution, that the only way Robertson was going to lose his championship was through his own mistakes, and obviously that pit call did not work out the way he wanted, and now he's paying the price. Running 3rd seat is now Noggle has cleared his way up to 3rd, and now he is currently stuck 3rd overall in the race, as now Bauer and Brackett going to go side by side into turn number 3.
Bauer and Brackett making a little bit of noise here through 3 and 4, giving us something to watch on screen. But hey, I want to go back to Brandon Robertson, because I think it's worth noting, no matter where he finishes, obviously he had a chance to win this championship coming in, but there's got to be something to the idea that we as broadcasters come in here, and people come in here watching the broadcast itself, even the people in the race, they come in and they look at Brandon Robertson to see what he's doing every week. You look to see what that number 2 car is capable of, because you know he's fast, you know he's capable of winning every time they come out. He's gotten the allure of being one of, if not the top driver in this series. He's won at almost any type of racing facility that we've gone to with this group of cars at these tracks. He's proved himself in the series as one of those guys to watch every week. And I think that's got to hold some sort of value, that Brandon Robertson can come out week in, week out, be competitive, be up at the front end of the field, and just tick away at the rest of the field. So props to Brandon Robertson. Maybe the evening has kind of gone sour in the number 2 machine, but as we get closer to the end of it, I think there's a lot to be valued out of the performance he's had all season long. And obviously everybody's going to be watching to see what he's got in season 3.
And everybody's known this championship format since day one, but it stings, even for us up here, to think about the fact that Robertson has been the guy to talk about as a possibility for the championship all season long. He has been just about the guy. Kinder, he's been oh so close to so many race wins, but just hasn't put them together and hasn't shown necessarily a championship season out of that number 21 car. Noggle, he's been great at some tracks, not so great at others, and has been over-aggressive a few times. Grenier, he's been so quiet that we didn't really think about him all that much this season. Sure, he got that race win at Charlotte. Sure, he almost mirrored Robertson, but he almost mirrored Robertson. He didn't mirror Robertson. It's been all the number 2, and we keep talking about him because it is painful even for us to see this guy dominate all season, and now with 25 to go, he may come up empty-handed at Phoenix, and this might be season done for Brandon Robertson. It's so weird how this race has played out to suddenly put things in the hand of this guy, Matt Grenier. Hey, you know what? Again, the championship format has been known by everybody in the series all season long, and he's done it right. He is obviously, again, set himself up for success here at Phoenix Raceway, and he is quite clearly the guy to do it.
Absolutely so. It just really just the key to winning these championships is being consistent. And like I said earlier, he's kind of pulling off that Matt Kenseth strategy from 2003. Win your first race early on and then just be consistent. Be up there, run up there towards the front, kind of how John Kinder snuck his way through the championship throughout most of the season, having a few bad races, but all the consistency that he built up over the season allowed him to have a huge buffer to make it this far into the championship. Same for Grenier. He was consistent. He never made a foot wrong to put himself in a bad spot, and this is where he finds himself now. Because even now, with where he is, he's going to win this championship the same way he got here, running second. The fact he's going to run second possibly to the end of this race and win a championship is kind of just icing on the cake for how well this strategy played off. And honestly, this is about as good as it could have been when Matt Crafton snuck his way to a championship a couple years ago, not winning a single race throughout the season.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Noah. He snuck his way in by just being consistent and getting those second, third, even fourth and fifth place finishes throughout the course of it. And I know this guy's got a lot of respect out on the track. I mean, he doesn't do the things that upset other drivers. He's got a lot of respect for who's out there with. And I know there's a lot of people who root for him, too. I remember way back in season 1, we talked to Brandon Robertson one time. I believe it was the Roval, I might be wrong, that he was just talking about Matt Grenier finally breaking through and having a good finish. I think that might have been Grenier's first top 3 in the series. And just talking about how excited everybody was for him. One of the guys that people root for inside the cars. So, that speaks volumes for the amount of respect he has from his competitors and, what he brings to the table for the Bluegrass iRacing series. So probably going to be one of the more favorite of people to try to get this championship done, especially within that Team New England group. Brandon Robertson obviously in that Final Four, but you can't take away from Matt Grenier. He's been strong all night long, and he just gets closer and closer. We're getting close within 20 laps to go of the checkered flag, and as long as he doesn't put a foot wrong, he will have a pretty easy go of it with a over 10-second lead to Nick Noggle in third place right now.
He could start giving up a half second a lap and still have time to work with come the end of this race to Nicholas Noggle for the championship. Obviously, I'm sure he wants to go out on top. He wants to prove that he can keep winning here in the Bluegrass iRacing series. He'd love to get that second win of his short career so far, along with everybody else. Only 2 seasons for this series. To grab 2 wins, it's an average of one per season, even though they would have both come in this season. That would be huge for Matt to go out there and put himself up there as a multiple-time race winner. A little further back as we work to the inside, of 20 to go. Jack Bauer still all over Nicholas Noggle. This third and fourth conversation has not died down whatsoever. Bauer faster on the straightaways, Noggle faster in the corners, it seems, and of course, well, that's because of all the damage to the 08 car. And behind these guys, Wyatt Brackett, he stays in that 5th spot with Robertson and Kinder in behind. And this is just so uncharacteristic of both of these drivers, Robertson and Kinder. We usually see them much further up unless an issue comes back to bite them and put them towards the rear for some reason. This is very odd from both of these guys to be running outside of the top 5 within 20 laps to go. And I'm astonished that they are sitting back here in 6th and 7th with really no great avenue to the top 5 at all.
Yeah, it's just very uncharacteristic for what we've seen out of the entire season, but that's kind of just a byproduct of how this whole playoff system works. You can be as great as you want all season long, but at the end of the day, the only race that's going to matter is this last race. As long as you get here, it's all that matters. But regardless, it doesn't matter how many wins you have, how many top 5 or 10s you have, because it all gets thrown out the window when you enter that final race of the season as a championship contender. And sadly, that's really what's going to define these guys, is the fact that they ran so well all season long, but have just really fell short and were going to matter most at the final race of the season. And now all they can do is just hope somebody wrecks to give them that second chance at a championship. But with how it's going right now, all they can do is just sit back, watch, and reminisce on what was the 2021 Bluegrass iRacing Series Season 2.
Yeah, they got a couple laps left. I mean, we're getting closer and closer to 10 laps to go. We're going to be hitting lap 300 right here. So it's kind of time to reminisce in general, I think. We've had all these races coming out. We've had a lot of different winners. We've had a couple repeats. Obviously, Brandon Robinson won a good couple this season. But it's a good time for these guys to just kind of take it in one last time, I think. And maybe for some of the guys running a little more alone out on track right now, they can just kind of ride around, think about, what have I done this season? What have I gained from this of races and these guys out on track? And hopefully, this is a nice moment, maybe bittersweet, but hopefully they enjoy these last couple laps that they have for this season and then, get to work on season 3.
And to that point, Joe, I want to take a moment to spotlight somebody currently running in the 12th position. I want to spotlight him because despite a lot of other drivers falling out of this one for whatever reason, Michael Brisson, even though he's 12 laps down to the race leaders, is still in it. He is continuing to race on. Here soon, he's going to have literally no opportunity to catch the driver ahead because there will be too few laps to go, but he's going to keep racing. This is sportsmanship at its finest out of Mike Brisson. Never give up, keep racing, get all that you can get. And even if there's no more to get, keep fighting. Stay out there. Finish the race. That is incredible to Mike Brisson. And I always love to highlight drivers when they do that kind of thing. And you know what? We have another one to talk about. Brian Terry, running back here 7 laps down. He is that next car ahead of Michael Brisson. He's still out here. These two are both multiple laps down and soon will have no opportunity. In fact, Brisson this time by will have no opportunity to get back onto the lead lap. Yet he and Brian Terry are still out here racing. And after a season of 16 races, countless laps, countless miles, this, I think, deserves as much respect as the championship. The fact that these two are still out here, they are still racing, and I'll just say it, there's some others that could have and aren't.
Yeah, it's kind of been the defining thing of how these guys have ran most of the season. They find themselves in these positions almost every single race, being multiple laps down, riding around. But they just still keep on fighting, and they finish almost every race. I can't really think of how many times these guys have a DNF that comes from them just pulling down pit road and parking it. Mostly the only time they're ever going to park it is if the car is that damaged. They just keep trucking along, and it's honestly kind of like an Iron Man kind of thing. Even when you're out of it, they still just keep going and get every bit of what they can out of these cars, and are just here really just to enjoy the moment. And it's honestly kind of just how they've ran this season, because while they don't have the pace, they certainly have the laps that the leaders do.
And one of the guys who used that to their advantage, I think at the beginning of the season, was the guy who's in third place right now. Nick Noggle had a pretty poor start to this season, didn't have a lot of really great performances, but just kind of trekked on and got through those beginning stages, waited for the car to come around for him. And look where he is. He's in the championship 4. I mean, you gotta be able to do that if you want to compete at the top end of the grid, because even the guys up there, Matt Grenier, Brandon Robertson, they have that mindset. They want to get through the races. They want to keep their cars out on track. Maybe if you learn one thing over the last 12 laps that you can't get back onto the lead lap, you learn something and you can use that the next week out. So that's the type of motivation that breeds champions. And I think, get some time under your belt, put in some practice and have those opportunities. You could see those guys like Brian Terry and Michael Brisson making some noise for further performances in races to come.
And I'm sure that the guys who have parked it for the evening, they have their reasons, be it they've got to go do whatever, maybe their motors finally expired on them, but absolutely there are plenty of drivers in each iRacing event that just park it when they don't need to, and incredible respect to the guys who continue on, even though they could just park it, they could go do whatever, drink a beer, what have you. They don't. They keep racing, and again, I think that deserves utmost respect. 5 laps to go this time by the start-finish line. It's all Justin Winters, and I don't think we've talked about him maybe as much as we possibly would have in any other race if he was going out here and leading this thing with 5 laps to go to win this thing. Oh my gosh, we have smoke. We have a stopped car, a slow car here. Was Brian Terry. No caution for this. That could have been race change. That could have been season changing.
Yeah, a very off moment there. And we just talked about how Brian was kind of just being an Iron Man running around here. It's going to be very interesting to see what caused that. As you look at the number 13 STP Camaro coming through turns 3 and 4, sends it in very deep. It might possibly wash all the way up to the marbles. It looks like he might. This is very interesting. He's going to come off of turn number 4. He just clips the outside wall and then just noses it in hard to the inside wall and destroys the front end of that machine. And I'm surprised that did not result in a caution, because that could have, and I would not be surprised if Brandon Robertson and John Kinner aren't too happy about that, because that is exactly what they needed. And we're still staying green, which is exactly what Matt Grenier wants, but is not what Noggle, Robertson, or Kinner are going to want, as now we have 3 laps to go here in the Bluegrass iRacing Series Season 2 season.
Yeah, I definitely would have thought that'd be a yellow. I mean, that wreck happened right in front of where Justin Winters showed up, and even when Justin Winters came through, Brian Terry wasn't back up to speed. So, yeah, a little questionable there to not call a yellow, but Brian Terry did get that car figured out at that point. Definitely Robertson and Kinder back there were hoping that would work out for them.
Oh, my God.
You got Michael Brisson going loose down the front stretch. About a lap and a half going to be to go for Justin Winters. 71 car looks clean. He's still going forward, but like I said, 1.5 laps. And I mean, this is just a class run for Justin Winters. Should be pretty easy here through 3 and 4. No trouble for Matt Grenier behind.
The rest of the field certainly raising blood pressure of everybody else in this race, be it your race leader Justin Winters, even us here in the booth. But the white flag is out on the race here at Phoenix, on the season here in the Bluegrass iRacing Series, and Justin Winters out and away to a 1.5 second race lead. More importantly, it's that guy in behind. Matt Grenier is going to come around, and barring anything weird happening in the final couple of moments, he is going to wrap up almost a perfect season here in the Bluegrass iRacing Series, staying very quiet, and none of us picked him to win the championship, yet he has done it. Matt Grenier is your champion here in the Bluegrass iRacing Series. Justin Winters grabs the final win on the season, but how about this guy? How about this guy?
An absolute incredible performance from the number 15. He's had such a quiet, strong season. It's going to pay off in the best way he could have ever thought, now being the second ever Bluegrass iRacing Series champion. Justin Winters in front of him, having fought for the championship a year ago, he gets the win. He's going to have a major confidence booster going into the next season, and now expect the motor just to fall out of the bottom of this thing because he is going to burn it down as he stops it there. Going to let Justin Winters enjoy this because this win has been a long time coming for the 52 Allen's Body Shop Boots Chevrolet Camaro. He has gone through so much this season, having to deal with the fact that he's had such an off year compared to last year, and now he gets to celebrate every moment of this, and he's going to ride this wave going to next season, but now make way for the champion as he's going to burn it down on the front stretch.
Yeah, that was pretty cool to see the two of them go one at a time there for their burnouts, but well-deserved tire smoke for both of those guys. I mean, Justin Winters put on a heck of a show to get to the end there, and here we go. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a dual burnout action from your race winner and your season champion on the front stretch. How cool is that to see?
I just want to butt in here real quick. This is kind of a callback to, I want to say, around 2008 when I believe it was during the Truck Series when Kevin Harvick won the race, but Ron Hardy won a championship, and they were doing dual burnouts down the front straightaway to celebrate it. So this is amazing to see from these two.
Matt Grenier capping off again such a quiet season, but almost a perfect season. Certainly, I think a perfect season anytime you end up in victory lane as the champion. It's just incredible. Only one win on the season. It came all the way back at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Doesn't quite win this final race on the season, but Matt Grenier is your Season 2 champion in the Bluegrass iRacing Series. Justin Winters along with him as race winner. These two, amazing all season long. Winters didn't quite make it to the Final Four, but showed why he deserves to make it next time around. The three that come up short, it's going to be Noggle in third place on the racetrack. Then, Brenner Robertson came across the line 6th, and Kinder came across the line 7th, and they all will go home, unfortunately, empty-handed. But hey, we will take a step back. We'll be right back to you momentarily from the Phoenix Raceway. Post-race coverage for the final time here at the Bluegrass iRacing Series, just on the far side of this quick word from our partners here at PitStop TV. Don't go anywhere.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
After 16 races, it all comes down to the final run to the finish, and it all came down to Matt Grenier just flying under the radar. We thought maybe it would be the Black 08 of Nicholas Noggle playing Dark Horse, being a bit stealthy and finding his way to a championship. No, it was the Black and Blue 15. It was Matt Grenier who snuck through. We'll talk to him momentarily, but first, of course, we want to talk to none other than our race winner this evening. It is going to be, first up, Justin Winters, putting together an amazing run to the finish. This is a guy who has had amazing runs the entire time that he's been here in the Bluegrass iRacing series. Maybe not expected to perform quite like this here at Phoenix, but Justin Winters, how about this run to the finish? 41 laps led, you took the race lead after a little while, and you never looked back. You end up capturing the victory here at Phoenix.
Yeah, it was a comeback kid. Spun on lap 3, got a speeding penalty. Glad it was a long race, and we had a good long run car, so if it was a long run, I was feeling very confident about coming away and putting pressure on Matt. But I had to race Matt clean because he had a bigger picture to capture, so we did okay.
And you certainly raced him more than clean, I think. Raced him completely fairly, and it was a great battle you guys had. Even if Matt did just kind of let you have it, kept the big picture in mind, you had to go out there and race for this victory, making it 2 on the season. You didn't quite get yourself into the championship picture this time around, but I think next season, hey, best 2 out of 3 maybe?
Yeah, that's the hope for sure. I definitely didn't finish the season like I would like, but there's always next season. And we ended this season on a strong note with the W.
Absolutely. I think it was Joe Donahue that mentioned just how big of a statement this makes going into the 3rd season of the Bluegrass iRacing series, going out there, finishing on top. Though you did have one scary moment down the front stretch towards the end. What did you see as Brian Terry went for a ride in front of you?
That was awfully scary. You're correct. I just saw him get loose and hit the wall, and hoped that I picked the right lane to avoid that. So that could have ended my race, and that would have been a sad story.
Absolutely. Well, you get it done in the final race, your final opportunity this season here at Phoenix Raceway. Who makes it happen for you? Who helps you out? And who's this win go out
to? First and foremost, I got to thank excuse me, Jason and Nick for putting this series on. Alan's Body Shop for always being on the car. Huffman Designs for painting it. Boots Manufacturing. Old School Diecast for being on the car. And thank you guys for the wonderful season you guys did broadcasting us. We couldn't make this series as big without you guys. And again, just shout out to Bluegrass, man. These are a bunch of good guys to race with, and it's a blast.
Justin, thanks so much for your time this evening. Congratulations on an amazing run here at Phoenix. Congratulations on, if not on a championship season, certainly an impressive one nonetheless.
Thank you, sir.
Justin Winters grabbing the final checkered flag of the season here in the Bluegrass iRacing Series. Gets it done at the Phoenix Raceway. Without further ado, I'm sure Noah's pretty stoked to talk to this guy. We will pass it down to Noah Carmichael with our series champion, Matt Grenier.
Well, Matt, you've had time to reflect, you've had time to think about it, but I want to hear from you first. You are a Bluegrass iRacing Series champion. How does it feel?
How about that, boys? I'm so excited right now. You have no idea. I came into this race hoping that I would be able to keep up with the guys, and all the hard work that I put in this week paid off. I drove my heart out tonight, and it paid off. I couldn't be any happier right now.
And it paid off, it did, having led over half of the race distance. You straight up dominated most of the event, running up there in the top 2. But reflecting on this whole season coming up to now, just thinking back on it, how has the season been for you to get you where you are now, to where you can call yourself the second ever Bluegrass Series champion?
Practice and consistency. Consistency is the name of my game, and being there at the end every week is important. I don't have to win every week, but if you're finishing top 2, 3, 4 in that neighborhood, good things are going to come out of it. With the completion of this race, I put in about 1,000 laps of this track this week. So you got to put in the time, you got to put in the practice, and this is the result of that. I led as many laps as I did because of all the practice time I put in, and I'm just so fortunate that it paid off and that I had this opportunity.
And with that being said, now you're going to go into next season riding a huge wave of momentum. What is the strategy going to be next year to try and come back and become the first ever repeat champion of the Bluegrass iRacing series?
Well, there's always room to improve. Next season, we'll keep up with the consistency, but the goal will be to put a couple more wins on the board and keep up with Brandon's win total there. See if I can hang with him, but again, be consistent and just be up front as much as possible, and that's what I'm going to look to do in season 3.
All right, and one last time before I let you go here, you've won a championship. Who do you have to thank for all the people who have gotten you here today to be able to pull off what you have done here tonight?
I got to thank Main Dump Runners again for coming on board. My buddy Luke Biot, it's his company. Couldn't do it without him. Can't do it without Team New England. Man, these guys are just, they do everything. We discuss our pit strategy. We work on our driving lines. I mean, we're a great team. I can't do it without them. They deserve a ton of credit. Brandon Robertson, he has helped me so much. A lot of credit goes to him. I have to thank John Kinder. He's helped a lot throughout the season, and he's provided a lot of knowledge, and that's helped me improve. So I got to thank my parents. They watch every race. I got to thank my girlfriend. I got to thank my buddy Eric at home with his twins, and my buddy Chris. And I want to thank all the guys in this Bluegrass series, man. These guys are a bunch of awesome guys. We all practice a lot together, maybe not so much for this week, but we practice a lot together. We've really gotten to know each other pretty well, and these are just an awesome group of guys to race with every week. So I appreciate all of them that come out. And then appreciate you guys for the broadcast. I love watching the races back. You guys do a fantastic job. And thanks to Jason and Nick for putting this series on. It's definitely something to be proud of.
All right, well, congratulations on the championship. Congratulations on the fantastic season. Enjoy the off season, and good luck going into season number 3.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
All right, that's going to be your new Bluegrass iRacing Series champion, Matt Grenier, and I'm going to hand it over to Joe Donahue, who I believe will have a word with Mr. Nicholas Noggle.
Yes, so we're going to pull in third place from tonight's performance. Nick, this is Joe Donahue up at PitStop TV. Do you got a copy?
Yes, how's it going?
Well, we're doing pretty well up here. You did pretty well out on track tonight. You came home second in the championship, which, might have surprised some people with the damage on the front, but, how do you feel about coming home second in the championship here?
I can't complain. I mean, like you said, there was a time there when Lancaster got squarely up there and T-boned us, and there was a quick thought of we might be screwed here, but then luckily went into the pits. Didn't seem like it was a bunch of damage. Motor was fine, so I said, screw it. Why hang my head? Let's go see what we can do.
Yeah, that mentality definitely would have had to shine through. I mean, just what is your thought process when you get involved in those incidents beginning the race off like that? I mean, it's a long event, but that doesn't feel good to have that setback so early.
Yeah, I mean, you can sit there and get mad about it. You can run your mouth. You can do whatever you want, but honestly, I've just always have the keep going mentality. No matter what point you're at, just keep pushing forward, and it seemed to play out in my favor a lot of times with races like this.
It seemed like you were pushing forward definitely worked out. I mean, you just kind of slowly and methodically worked that car back into a way that you could get the thing whipped and rolling around the competitors, and you just kind of slowly trekked your way up through the field, even to the end of stage 1. You were up at the front end of the field. I mean, how did you get that car worked back in to work so well?
Yeah, I think after that had happened, I realized that trying to save tire strategy wasn't working. It wasn't playing in my favor. So I just got a little more aggressive and started actually working the tires and trying to wear that right front out. It seemed to play more to my favor. It seemed all the boys who were saving tires, they were burning up their rears and they'd have plenty of front left. Whereas I kept burning that right front off pretty steady, and it was staying even with the rears and keeping a very good stable platform.
That's some insight that was worthwhile to hear. That's a very interesting strategy there, Nick. Now, I'll go back to big picture right here, because obviously we finished off Season 2. You come home P2 in the championship here, P3 in the event. What's your outlook? What are you thinking about for Season 3?
Same deal. Season 3, I'd like to start it off a little more level-headed. That's the biggest thing for me. I'd like to start finishing up front instead of always trying to go for the win and whatever happens, happens. I think it's going to be calm me down a bit more. Seemed I was able to do it at the end of the season there and be a little more methodical with my racing. Looking up to them boys like John Kinder and that, they've got that down pat. They know when's the time to push and when's the time to sit.
That sounds like a great strategy move. It'll be very exciting for you. Hopefully that works out on your end and you can get that done. Before we set you loose, and rightfully so, you deserve to crack open a cold one and enjoy this one for the awesome drive you got tonight in the 08 machine, but we'll give you center stage. Anybody you want to shout out or thank here on the broadcast?
Yeah, I gotta thank Brycon, Mobile One. I gotta thank my mom and dad. They support me every week, my girlfriend. I gotta thank the boys who run the series, Jason, Nick. They've put on an awesome series, and I've just made a bunch of friends here, and being able to come race every week definitely helps us out. Most importantly, I gotta thank everyone who supported me, and I gotta thank everyone who didn't even more. The boys who kept doubting me, the boys who kept pushing me and driving me harder week in, week out. It's all that it took to keep pushing me, to keep pushing myself.
Well, that worked out in your favor very well tonight, being able to push yourself to keep rolling, and look where it ended up getting you. You round out the podium tonight. Congratulations on your performance. We'll be looking for big things out of you in the future.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, boys.
And thank you to you as well, Mr. Noggle. A very good insight there from the driver of the 08 machine at the end of this one. I'll hand it back to boss man Andrew Cardinale as he's going to bring in P3 in the championship rundown, Brandon Robertson.
And third place in the championship, honestly, is a huge understatement on the season that this guy has had. Brandon, we've talked about you so much through the entire season, and this one I'm sure feels a bit bittersweet, a bit like a slap in the face, but also cause for celebration, as you're a big part of the championship run here for Matt Grenier. But how did your race shake out? Obviously, we talked to you about halfway after winning stage number 1, but unfortunately coming up short the rest of the way home.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome job, Matt, for sure. Right after you guys talked to me, right around halfway, I just lost sound on the computer, and I had nothing at all. No spotter, no tire noise, no engine, and that was certainly difficult for sure. I just didn't have any other than just hitting the cones and turning in and all that. It really kind of made it tough, but all in all, I mean, I'm glad Matt won. I mean, I knew once the sound went out, I was like, there's no chance. I lost a little bit. All it takes is you can't give him anything, not even a half a tenth on a lap, and he certainly just checked out, and I was just kind of surviving at that point.
I can only imagine. I've had that happen a couple of times, and I'm sure you're pretty similar, where on the sim, obviously, you don't feel every little thing that the car is going through. You've got to race rather audibly. You've got to go off of the sounds. In fact, I don't usually even look for braking markers myself. You might be the same, where I just listen to the note of the engine, and I know about when to lift. But I think maybe the small, very small silver lining in this situation is you do have over 100 laps to come to terms with the fact that it's not quite the number 2 on top. Team New England still gets the championship, but this has got to leave you wanting a whole lot more in Season 3.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it could have. The season's been there's certainly been a lot of different winners and a lot of people finishing top 3. I mean, this has got to be another example of that, where you have, John and I would probably be considered the strongest, and we end up finishing in like 6th and 7th. And you get Justin there, comes out of nowhere, and he's not even in the championship and wins the race. And Matt, he's so consistent. He rarely gets incident points, and he doesn't really ruffle any feathers. He just goes out there and does it. And if he does ruffle any feathers, it's probably your problem, to be honest with you, because he's just so consistent and doesn't, he drives within his means, and he certainly deserves it.
And Brandon, before this evening, you were the only multi-time winner this season. How does that feel, I think, for a season as a whole? Let's stop being so down and dejected about it. How does it feel to come into this race the only multi-time winner on the season, a season where there were so many different winners, there was so much parity, and there was so much competition?
Yeah, I think, that's awesome as far as we wanted every kind of track. I forget exactly where, Vegas and North Wilkesboro, and I got a road course win as well. That was kind of the big to do with my car, which was the 2001 Rolex car that Dale Earnhardt drove. I was happy to get the Roval win, but I think like you just hit on, the season was certainly multiple different first-time winners. It was good to see Wyatt win, and Matt pulled off a win there too. I thought he was going to win this race, but man, Justin did a heck of a job.
Yeah, we're talking 5, 6, 7, I think, maybe even wins. I'm not exactly sure on the exact official number, but it's definitely up there. An amazing season, no matter the outcome when it all came down to it. Who do you have to thank? Who do you have to shout out? Who makes it happen for you there at Team New England?
Yeah, just shout out to anybody who shows up week in and week out. There's people here that just show up and they run every race and they do every lap, and they're it's unlikely that they haven't broken into the money per se, top 3 or 4, and they just show up, and it's really without them the league doesn't continue. And that's certainly something to be that's certainly something to think about. And then obviously you guys do a great job with the broadcast. Jason and Nick do a good job keeping everybody kind of going every week. And shout out to Chris and Eric for old roommates from college. They practically watch every race. So thank you guys.
Brandon, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the show you put on every single race all season long. Certainly gave us a lot to talk about. And give yourself a pat on the back as well. You put on an amazing season. And I have to believe, if not for the sound going out, we'd be talking about you at least in a battle with Matt for the championships. You got a lot to be proud of. And best of luck to you as time goes on.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
That's Brandon Robertson. It's easy to get down and kind of dejected for him, especially with the audio issue. Again, I know firsthand how important it is to have sound in the sim, because again, you don't have all of the other physical cues to rely on. So Noah, as we bring in, of course, the next finisher in the line, John Kinder, that's huge, and that's a perfect explanation as to why we unfortunately did not see Robertson towards the front at the end there. But hey, maybe we can shed some light on what held the 21 back as we bring in John Kinder to talk with Noah Carmichael.
Well, John Kinder came in here, arguably one of the more heavy favorites, despite the fact that having a win, John. Not the night you wanted to have, struggling to run up there, fighting for the race lead and the championship. What was going on out there that was, I would say, kind of holding you back off of those front two the entire night?
I just got into the fence a little bit off of 2, and it was just an evil handling car after that. I probably should have fixed the damage on that first caution. I had 36 seconds of damage. It just never drove the same. But my hat's off to Matt. Matt, he worked real hard, and he deserves championship. And Justin Winters, great job tonight for winning the race. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So, Obviously, this is not how the season you wanted to go, having ended with a goose egg for the win tally, having struggled coming so close so many times this season. Looking back on it, what would you say kind of would be the summary of your championship season this year?
I can't close it out. I don't know. I'm ready for this season to end.
I can absolutely understand that. And now, as you prepare for season 3, what would you say you're going to do to try and prepare for that season to come back here, so that way you can try and be in the Final Four once again? Because it's 2 years in a row now that you've been in the final race fighting for a championship. What would you say is going to be the key for next season to get ready to try and do it for a third time in a row?
I mean, the speed's there. It's just I've had some bad situations and stuff I've put myself in, stuff I couldn't control. Just keep coming out racing hard. We'll see what happens.
All right, before I let you go here one more time this season, just real quick, I'm going to let you have the floor to thank all the people who have got you here tonight to allow you to do this. So by all means, the mic is yours.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Rims One, Ghostface Brewery, Huffman Designs. It keeps us looking sharp with our paints. Justin Winters, Adam Lancaster, Casey Barlow, and Ronnie Shirk for all their help throughout the season. They do a lot. We feed off of each other and we learn a lot from each other, so it's always great to have good teammates.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on a hard-fought season. Sorry that it didn't end out the way that you'd hoped, and hopefully you get to have a little bit of a better run next year as you prepare for season 3.
Well, I appreciate you guys.
All right, we appreciate you. Have a great night.
All right, you too.
All right, that's going to be your 4th place finisher in the championship, John Kender, and I believe we might actually have Brian Terry, perhaps.
Yeah, we're going to bring in Brian Terry. Brian, this is Joe Donahue with PitStop TV. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
All right, Mr. Terry. Well, you finished P11 tonight, but we wanted to give you a spotlight here. We have a lot of respect up in the booth for people who just kind of grudge on throughout the season and get through some of the hardships. We saw you get into a little bit of some trouble tonight throughout the event, but hey, you got to the finish line, and that deserves a lot of respect.
I give one of these small teams running in the back.
Yeah, you just been trudging on in the back end of the field for a while here in this race, but I mean, that's just the way you got to learn. I mean, with the way that you do this and you trudge forward, you may be a lap or two down after an incident, but you just keep going. I mean, what's the thought process? What's the mentality behind doing that?
Well, you don't ever deal with every problem. Hey, is that better?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, you get out here and run races, you have trouble. You usually got time to pick up what you can, and attrition's all these races are about.
That's a great point there, Brian. Attrition definitely takes people out of contention, that you can get a couple spots back, and obviously that kind of gets you through points championships. But looking forward to season 3, I mean, how does that help you get ready for another championship season, try and defend with these guys up and try to get a little closer to the front, maybe get up into that top 3?
Well, hopefully we'll have a little better luck. This is probably the worst luck I have ever had racing in my life. If it wasn't a wreck, we had a couple races where pretty incident, had a good run, and internet would drop out or something crazy like that would happen. So, it happens. It's just worst string of bad luck I've ever.
Yeah, and hey, we got a lot of respect for that, for you just kind of having a good mentality with that bad luck that occasionally comes around and bites us in the tail. I mean, it happens to the best of us, but obviously, like you said, you've had a string of this. What would be your advice maybe for other people just to kind of stay in that mentality and not give up if they had similar or the same situation arise in their own iRacing events?
Well, if you have a wreck and you're waiting to get repaired, just remember, there could be another one. Take other people. You're going to pick up positions and get back out there, and don't give up.
Absolutely, Brian. That's a great outlook. And hey, we have a lot of appreciation up here for people like you who just aren't willing to give up quite yet. we'll give you center stage here. Anybody you want to thank or anybody you want to shout out here on the broadcast before we set you loose for the end of tonight's show, just to, say thanks and, hey, I'm here and I'm glad that you guys are with me.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Premier Precast Products. They've been on the car all year. They pay all the fees and registration, everything for the entire season. Twisted T Designs. They give me the paint schemes that I'm using. Man, just everybody who puts up with my time away from life race.
Yeah, we know that's a big thing for all the people in our lives to kind of just sit out and watch us rock and roll on this program. But hey, a lot of props to you, Brian. Congratulations on the P11, just trudging it out to get there. And, every day is a new day, and hopefully we'll get to see you get some opportunities in the future. Good luck with that, my friend, and congratulations on a good season.
Thanks, and we'll see y'all later.
Take care, Brian. And that was Mr. Terry finishing P11. Andrew, I think that was a really awesome thing we got to bring him in there. Just talk about what it means to motivate yourself to keep going in a situation like that.
Absolutely. When I saw him still hanging around, it's like, we got to go ahead and talk to him. Brian's been there from day one, and there aren't too many guys that stick through it every single race that they can run, every single lap that they can run since the start of a league, and that's really important. For any league to have a driver like that, especially a guy like Brian Terry that's always got a good look on things, and I wish we got more opportunities to talk to him. Brian Terry, again, incredible respect for anybody that goes out there and completes a 312 lap race, especially somebody who maybe down on luck towards the start of the race and is already quite a ways out of it. To keep running through the race is huge, and again, I can't stop just dishing out the respect for anybody who keeps running the laps. We do have to round this show up at some point, though, so we'll go ahead and we'll move on down the line to our race results. And of course, we talked to the man himself. We talked to this whole top three. Justin Winters grabbing that race win. Only 1.5 seconds back is your champion, Matt Grenier. It just absolutely incredible run from those two. Unmatched, literally unmatched. 11 seconds behind your race leader is where you finally get Nicholas Noggle. That's how unmatched those top two were, Noah, as you then have Jack Bauer, Wyatt Brackett, and Brandon Robertson round out the top six.
Riding on 7th is going to be your 4th place to the championship finisher, John Kinder. Casey Barlow, who was knocked out in the round of 8, he finishes 8th. Adam Lancaster knocked out back at Bristol, along with Bryce Hunter. They round out 9th and 10th. Back outside the top 10, finishing 11th, the man we just talked to, I would say Iron Man himself, Brian Terry, finishing 12th. Another guy who held on, almost actually passed him. And number 71, Michael Brisson. And back there in 13, you're going to find the 55 of CJ Mason.
Yeah, so CJ Mason dipped out a little earlier on in the show, and he will come home P13. You've got David Brackett in car number 38. Man, what a tough night for him. Rounds out 14th, but had a lot to deal with that car tonight. Nathan Maurer will be P15, ducked out a little earlier on in the show, as well as Nick Mills had plenty of incidents to deal with on his own in car number 46. 17th spot at the end of this one is Dylan Butler, 247 laps down, and behind him will be Scott Fritz, guy who got into an incident very early in this show. 19th final position in the final race of season 2 is going to be the number 18 of Gary Jaworski.
Boys, gotta ask, final thoughts here as we wrap up the final race of the Bluegrass iRacing Series, season number 2. What a ride it's been. What do you have for us here at the end of the season here, Noah?
Honestly, it just really picked up from last season. They really picked up how the quality of the racing was. About every race that we've been to was a hard-fought, thrilling finish, and it was really exciting to watch how the season unfolded. Obviously, the playoffs was a very interesting thing, and we saw major shakeups with big names being knocked out at every which way, and now coming into here, much like how the rest of the season was just unexpected. I don't think any of us really expected that we'd be talking about Matt Grenier leaving Phoenix as the champion, but obviously with just the storyline of the season, unexpected, and Matt Grenier now is a Bluegrass iRacing Series champion, and I think it's just a perfect way of how to end this season with a guy who just ran consistent the entire way and didn't really have a single bad day, is now the champion of the series.
Yeah, and I can speak volumes on the amount of interesting stuff we've seen this season. I mean, we really don't have to kill time here on these broadcasts. They do a great job of putting on a good show out on track. We get a lot of really exciting racing out of these guys. I mean, obviously, even tonight, it was a good show, going a full-length distance, and these guys were racing each other lap after lap. I've been thoroughly enjoyed season 2 of the Bluegrass iRacing series. I think there's a lot of really great drivers and people involved in this series, a lot of great partners with the series itself as well, that just make it a nice show, make it a good time to come out on a Wednesday night. You know, split the week in the middle and have something to look forward to in between. I thoroughly enjoyed my time and watching these guys race, and I'm really happy to see Matt Grenier pull that one out and get that championship.
You mentioned partners there, Joe Donahue. Let's take a moment to thank our partners here at PitStop TV. Of course, Tucson Sound Art. You can go to TucsonSoundArt.com to order your wall-mounted sound art device today. And when you do, make sure to use promo code PitStop TV at checkout. It will get you a 10% discount on your order from Tucson Sound Art. Highly recommend you check these guys out. Follow them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram, check out their website, and of course, order a device absolutely today. It's something I think you definitely need. It's not something you think you need until you realize you need it. It's a great gift for anybody. It's a great way to immortalize any moment from your life, maybe a championship in a sim racing league. I'm looking at you, Matt Grenier. Certainly check out Tucson Sound Art today. Of course, these broadcasts are also brought to you by Race Pace Setups, a community-driven setup shop and driver development service all in one. Use that Discord link at the bottom right to join their Discord server, where you have immediate access to their setups that are provided to you on a donation-driven basis. That's right. You join their server, you immediately have access to those setups and access to all the help you need. All they ask is that you donate if and when you can. That is incredible. From a setup service as good as Race Pace Setups. By all means, hey, the 12 Hours of Sebring is coming up here on iRacing in just under 2 weeks. Check these guys out if you need a setup before the race comes along. These broadcasts, of course, also brought to you by Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine. Make sure to check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and their website, permanentmakeupinmaine.com, for all of your permanent makeup needs, especially up in the Northeast. And finally, as always, these broadcasts brought to you by Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider of PitStop TV. Guys, I've got a lot of thoughts in my head this evening as we wrap up yet another season of the Bluegrass iRacing series. A lot of thoughts swirling around up there, and certainly it's been an amazing season. You guys really touch on some of the big points. The fact that these guys had a big evolution from day one to, well, now, and the racing got better every step of the way. There were obviously those tough races mixed throughout, those caution fest, we'll just go ahead and say. Tonight, completely different. In fact, we can still bring these stats up. 5 cautions in a 312 lap race for only 20 laps, and one of those cautions was your stage break at halfway. 10 lead changes as well. It was not a boring race. Even with only 19 cars, this was a fantastic race. Only 12 finished. This was still a fantastic race by all of these drivers. And that's why we stuck through all the way through the season. And I mean, this is just amazing stuff. This was a fantastic show these guys put on. And seriously, tip of the cap to everybody out there on the racetrack tonight, putting on an amazing event. And man, I think good things are on the way for these guys as well. We will, unfortunately, have to bid you all adieu this evening from the Phoenix Raceway. And we thank you so much for watching this evening. And we hope you enjoyed tonight's coverage of the Bluegrass iRacing series in the virtual Phoenix Raceway in the virtual Avondale, Arizona. PitStop TV stays active weekly, and you can catch a variety of racing throughout the coming days. Friday evening, we kick off the weekend with the LTAC Cup Series at Dover International Speedway, where Emerson Arden, Eric Brennan, Trey Patton, and Trey Shuttlesworth will walk you through the coverage at Dover. It's going to be an amazing one under the Delaware sun. So from all the way down here in Arizona, all the way back up to the first state, it's going to be a whole lot of fun there at the LTAC Cup Series, continuing our NASCAR portion of our week of coverage. On the far side of the weekend, we rejoin Cross Series League Racing for their 8th round of their season as they continue a 2-week run with 360 sprint cars at the USA International Speedway. And Monday, the BRP iRacing Series rejoins us from up north at Cedar Lake Speedway in New Richmond, Wisconsin. Tune in next Wednesday as the IRL is back on PitStop TV, the International Online Racing League, with the 2 hours of Sebring. So you could watch the 12 hours of Sebring this weekend and then get an idea how the racing might go in IRL. Join us for some multi-class racing at one of the world's best endurance racing venues. Very much looking forward to IRL taking it to the bumps and respecting those bumps at Sebring International Raceway. It should be a ton of fun. Again, multi-class racing. Highly recommend that you all tune in for that. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/PitStopTV, over on Twitter at PitStopTV_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/Pit_Stop_TV, and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/C/PitStopTV1. Finally, for all of us here at PitStop TV, Noah Carmichael and Joe Donahue doing a fantastic job this evening with me on the mic. Trey Shuttlesworth over on our social media coverage on those aforementioned Facebook and Twitter pages. Thank you so much for watching us through our coverage of the Bluegrass iRacing Series. Thank you so much for being fans of PitStop TV. We hope you'll stick around with this. We hope you will join us for all of our races to come. And by all means, have a fantastic and safe rest of your St. Patrick's Day evening, and have a great night. We'll see you next time.
You